Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. He's my co-host and producer, Zach Goodman. It is a beautiful, cloudless day here in the greater Baltimore area. Orioles winners 9-4 over the previously second best in baseball Atlanta Braves last evening. But before we get to that, I want to let you know that today's show is brought to you by, PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Baseball season is here, and for the first time in history, you can bet from your phone in Maryland. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers for the best sportsbook offers and incentives so you can start winning today. Get 5 second chance bets at... Get 5 second chance bets at PointsBet when you deposit and bet your first $50. Just go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers to claim your incentive. Before we get started, Zachary Allen Goodman.
Nope.
I know that. I call you Zachary Allen Goodman frequently, and you say nope every time.
Yeah, I'm going to keep doing it, too.
What's your middle name?
It is Nicholas, but also there's no Zachary. It's just Zach.
Not Zachary?
It's not Zachary.
Your parents just named you Zach?
They did.
Huh.
Yeah. And by the way,
I don't think I've ever met a Zachary that was just Zach.
No, and nobody spells it right.
I don't think I ever met a Zach that was just Zach, not Zachary.
For everyone watching, it is a K. It is not an H. But nobody seems to understand that.
Your last name is not your first name is not Zach.
It is not Zach.
Or Zach.
It's not Zach.
it's Zach.
I feel like every ZAC I know is just I don't
maybe.
know. They're like,
I used to
like the Zachs and Zachs with the H's and the K's are like the normal people, but then you have the ones without the H's and the K's, and that's the people you don't I don't know.
My cousin
you don't
Zach
vibe with.
Is Zachary, and his first name is spelled with an H.
Yeah.
And he was quite the athlete growing up. We used to call him Zachman instead of Pac-Man. Or
I'll pass on that nickname.
Or Gene Zachman.
Wow. That's
Gene Zachman.
even worse.
Anyway, nobody called him that except for me, and I don't think I ever called it to him.
Okay. Well,
wow, what a start. I did used to have a roommate, a dude, big guy, whose birth name is Jess, Jes. Only Jess I've ever known, whose name is just Jes, Jess. Not Jesse, Jess.
What if he was Jessica, but
no,
he just didn't tell you because he was embarrassed?
He'd pound you into the ground. He would pound you into the ground if you called him. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
He's a big, and he's a great guy.
Gonna get drafted next year?
No, dude, we're 38 years old.
You never know.
No, I know.
Ben Cleveland's like 38 years old. He still got drafted. Anyway.
Ben Cleveland?
No, Ben Cleveland is on the older side. By the way, Hayden Hurst was like 26 when he was drafted.
25.
So Paul,
25. Brandon Whedon was 28.
It's never
Hendon
too late.
Hooker's 25 already.
There you go. Stetson Bennett's 26.
What the hell is happening right now? I don't even know. Do you want to open your window? It's too beautiful out to
look
to have the blinds closed. You know? People need to see the Goodman.
I didn't.
The Zachman Goodman.
Yeah, the Nicholas Goodman. I didn't close it, so that was our good buddy Griffin, most likely.
I know you didn't, but it was I don't know. Maybe he was blinded by the light yesterday.
Yeah, that's
revved up like a deuce. Another
great
runner
Bruce
in the night.
Springsteen song. Just saying.
That's Bruce.
Written by Bruce.
Okay.
Look, Manfred Mann made it popular, but it was written by Bruce.
Huh.
It is on his Welcome to Asbury Park, New Jersey in 1972.
Hate how much you know
his
about
first
Bruce
studio
Springsteen.
album.
You and Ken Wyman should go get a beer.
I would love to get a beer with Ken Wyman.
A beer, not a beer. I would love to get a beer.
Orioles show, Paul.
Yeah. But no, I want to talk about traffic real quick.
Oh boy. All right, let's do it.
I have noticed how many people, at least in the state of Maryland, don't know how to drive. So let me give you a few tips here.
Okay, let's do it.
If you're turning right onto a road on a green light, and I'm turning left, you have the right of way. Turning right on a green light, and the person coming in the opposite direction is turning left, you have the right of way. You can turn right on red, unless there's a sign that says no turn on red. That's why they make those signs, because otherwise you can turn on red. A lot of people don't know this. In the state of Maryland, if you're turning left onto a one-way road, you can turn left on red. You're allowed to do that. What else? You have a blinker.
I actually did not know that.
Yeah, and now I said a lot of people in Maryland don't know that.
I didn't.
Can. Another one. You have a blinker for a reason. Freaking use it. If I'm trying to turn left onto a road and you're oncoming traffic and you're turning right onto the road that I'm turning left off of, turn on your freaking blinker so that I can go. What else? Oh, what happened to me on my way in today is I'm coming down Loch Raven Boulevard. There's a place called Loch Raven Boulevard, right? Anyway, Zach, you did say how many times am I going to sing on the show today? That's one.
I think, I set the over-under at 3.
Yeah, the over-under at 3. That's one.
He came in and sang like 6 songs before we even got started.
It's a singing kind of day. Look how beautiful it is outside.
It is.
Also, and my final gripe for today, if I'm coming down a parkway, a highway, a roadway, any kind of way that I am driving on, and you don't have a merge lane, and you're coming off a ramp that comes into traffic with me, you have to yield. I don't have to stop to let you in. So if I'm keeping pace with traffic and you just get into my lane, I'm going to honk my freaking horn at you. I did this because they came off the ramp from 695, and instead of stopping at the yield sign, that's what the yield sign means. It means yield to oncoming traffic.
That is what that means.
That's what that means. They just blew right through that yield sign, and they merged right in front of me, caused me to have to slam on my brakes. Otherwise, they would have driven me into the other lane and caused a car accident. And so I honked, and the guy just went, no, he waved me off, and the woman was like, oh, my God, I'm sorry. Just before that, coming down Cromwell Bridge Road by Loch Raven High School, the person in front of me just flat out ran a red light.
Oh, nice.
They didn't even stop. They
Nice.
just went straight through it. So we are now, 7 minutes into the show and haven't talked a lick of baseball. Orioles. They beat the Braves last night 9-4. Dean Kremer, of all people, outduels Max Fried last night, who had allowed 1 run all season. Came into the game last night with an 0.45 ERA. Orioles touched him up for 7 runs, 5 earned. Cedric Mullins took him deep.
He
right?
did. Yeah.
Cedric Mullins took him deep. Anthony Santander took him deep. By
Twice.
the way, no, he didn't take him deep.
Oh,
twice.
someone else.
He
Twice.
took,
Okay,
the
got
grand slam was
You're
off
right.
the reliever.
You're right.
By the way, Orioles Twitter. I love the Orioles social media team. It's Tony Taters with an S. It's not Tony Tater.
There's not just one Tater.
It's Tony Taters.
He hit 2. So it's Tony Taters.
No, even if he hits 1, it's
Oh,
Tony.
fair, okay.
It's Tony
Yeah.
Taters. It's not Tony Tater. That doesn't have a ring to it. It's Tony Taters.
By the way, that Cedric Mullins home run you're speaking of, I think showed a real progression for Cedric Mullins, but also it wasn't really a great pitch by Fried. It was kind of over the middle, up and, that's a pitch that lefties can turn on pretty easily. But it's notable, especially because Cedric Mullins hit well under 250, I think well under 230 against lefties last
He hit
year.
like 209.
He was not good at all, right? So it's great to see Cedric. He's already had 2 home runs off lefties this year.
He's hitting like 280 against lefties
off
this
off
year.
Chris Sale, the first one, which is really tough as a lefty, considering he gets a lot of crossfire action coming at you because of that lower arm slot. So that's 2. But Chris Sale's really tough as a lefty to face, and obviously Max Fried is a top 3 starting pitcher in baseball, so he's incredibly tough to face. So really good to see that from Cedric Mullins. The turn on that fastball, albeit not the best pitch.
Have you ever seen Cedric pimp a home run like that?
No, I haven't.
I've never.
But he hit that a long way, so I can't blame him.
It went 390.
That's it.
That's it.
Well, I guess
the way he hit it, where it went, it looked like he hit that ball 430. That ball, according
Right.
to What It Dong or whatever on Twitter, the ball went 390.
That first Santander home run was a wall scraper. That was barely over. But
Yeah.
Cedric's went a long way. I mean,
Yeah.
it seemed like it was much farther than 390.
And Tony's grand slam went a long way too.
Yes.
Although I think that was only 387. But no, Cedric's hit home runs that he knew were gone in the past. He pimped the ever living hell out of that home run.
Yeah, he did.
So it was awesome. It was awesome. The whole game was awesome. The 2-minute and 14-second segment when they were trying to see if James McCann was safe at second base, and they ruled him safe.
And all the guys
and
are
all the
in
guys
the
had
dugout.
the water.
Yeah.
Kyle Gibson, namely, with the water in his mouth, waiting for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That whole segment, the commentary on it, the whole thing was awesome. This team is awesome. 22-10. Second best record in Major League Baseball. 18-5 in their last 23 games. 16-4 in their last 20. Dean Kremer, again, 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run, did exactly what they needed, especially after that game on Thursday.
Yeah.
I mean, needed that from Dean. He stepped up in a big way. Tani Santander, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs. Cedric Mullins, home run, single, 2 RBIs. Ryan Mountcastle, he doubled. It gives him 8 consecutive extra base hits after 13 consecutive singles before this run. Orioles have won 11 straight series openers, Zach. To start the season. First team since the 1973 San Francisco Giants to accomplish the feat. No team's ever done it 12 times. They've never won 12 straight series openers. They only have to win one of the next 2 games to win their 8th straight series. And now we look at this team. It's more than a small sample size. 18-5 in the last 23, 16-4 in the last 20, 22-10 overall. is this team for real?
I think at this point you have to start thinking that. There's a lot of baseball left to be played, and we're just out of April. And April is kind of that month where we've talked about it a lot, where you have to take everything you see with a grain of salt for the most part, especially individual performances. I think the team is more reflective than that of the specific performances, but I still think that the Orioles have a long way to go. There will be a lot of changes. There will inevitably be an injury or two that will happen that will shake this team up, and there's a lot left. But yes, I do believe right now this team is for real. And we have, as I wanted to do for my sounding off segment later, our power rankings. We'll see where the Orioles fall into that. We're going to each do our top 5 power rankings, and we're going to update that monthly is what I would like to do over the next few months of the season. And
Zach gave me 0 time to do this, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I haven't even done mine. He texted me this.
Oh, top 5 isn't much.
I know, but he texted me this as I'm driving to the show. Yeah. And I'm like, all right.
I'm a more, you know what, Paul? I'm a morning person. I wake up early and I get ready to go. So I don't know.
Really.
I like to start
really, because remember when I asked you to do that whole that roster thing?
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah.
The war thing.
You got a point there.
Yeah.
You got a point.
You were like, I had a long night and I just got up. And
that's true. That's true. I literally did that in about 20 minutes that morning. So yeah, that was not a.
I did it in 10 that morning.
That was not one of my my morning person mornings. Anyway.
Anywho's a what's-its. So yeah, Orioles, look, they're 22-10 now. 22-10 puts a bad taste in my mouth because in 2017 the Orioles started 22-10.
Yeah,
they had the best record in baseball on May 10th, and they ended that they were 22-10, and I think it was at the end of May they were, what was it, 27-24.
That sounds right. Yeah. Yeah,
it was a bad stretch. It was a bad season. They were tied for the wild card at the beginning of September after Manny Machado had a 3-homer game, including a walk-off against the. It was September 5th, and it was against the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
I remember that because my then girlfriend took me to the game for my birthday. Adam Jones dropped a pop-up in center field, and Manny Machado hit 3 home runs, including the walk-off game winner. So that was awesome, and then they sucked the rest of the way. I think they won like 5 games the rest of the year, and they didn't make the playoffs, and they didn't post a winning season after that until last season.
Yeah.
So 22-10 makes me nervous. The Orioles starting pitching over the last week or so, except for Dean last night, and he wasn't great last night, but he kept them off the board for the most part. The starting pitching has made me nervous because ever since last Saturday, I mean, Kremer, he went, what was it, 4 innings, gave up 6 runs or whatever it was in the first game of the against Detroit in that doubleheader. And then in the second game, the Orioles won the game, and I believe Grayson started that game, and he went 5 innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, no runs, 9 strikeouts. So that start was good, but then Bradish got demolished. Kyle Gibson got demolished. Tyler Wells gave up 3. It was only 3. His only 3 hits allowed, but he gave up 3 home runs and 4 runs in 6 innings. And then Gibson wasn't good again. I mean, Gibson was good in the fact that he was extremely pitch efficient.
Yes. Yeah.
Against Zach Greinke and the Royals. But in the 7th inning, he's at like 60 pitches, and he gave up 5 runs.
Right.
That inning. Right. They lost that game 6-0. It's back-to-back duds for Kyle Gibson after an 11 strikeout performance against the Tigers. I feel like the pitching staff, the starting rotation is good enough to right the ship there, but it still makes me nervous, and now the bullpen is starting to show signs of leakage because of the fact that they're the 4th most used bullpen in baseball.
Yeah. Well, I think that for Kyle Gibson, especially, the regression is going to come. He had a few really good starts to start the year. Then you had that 11 strikeout game against the Tigers, but it's the Tigers. I expect that against the Tigers for a lot of starters. I think there will be some up and downs for him, and that's kind of what you see with a guy like Kyle Gibson. If you look at his career history, he hasn't been incredible over his career. He's not an ace. The Orioles paid him $10 million, which is, a middle-of-the-road contract, slightly cheaper than a lot of starters. In
Major League Baseball, it's a back-end rotation guy.
Yeah, it's a back-end rotation guy, so I think they're paying him for what they're getting, at least so far. But you would have liked to see him pitch better against the Royals, especially considering how well Zach Greinke pitched against the Orioles. So
44 pitches in 5 innings and no runs allowed, and Zach Greinke gets yanked from that game.
Yeah, well, I guess considering he's 39 or 40 or whatever he is.
44 pitches.
But still, I don't know.
I get it that it's 5 ups.
I guess it doesn't make sense either when you're the Royals and you just desperately need a win. You can't buy a win and you're pulling a guy who's doing that. That made no sense to me. That made no sense. But Kyle Gibson should have stayed in that game better than he did against a lineup that's like the Kansas City Royals. Like you said, pitch efficient, but still.
They've got some dudes, though. I mean, Pasquantino is legit.
He can hit. He can really hit.
Bobby Witt looked like a superstar in that series.
Well, I think Bobby Witt will be, undoubtedly.
Still only hitting about 235 right now.
He'll get there.
Salvador Perez is Salvador Perez.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really good.
Yeah.
Fermin looks like he could be something.
Yeah, I guess so. He's had a hot start. But then I look at Dean Kremer, and I go, okay, after that game last night, that's going to lengthen his leash by so much. Much. I think the Orioles don't have an immediate replacement. It's not like there's someone down there in AAA right now who they just have.
Cole Irvin's been pitching pretty well.
He has been. He threw what? I think 6 innings.
He threw 7 innings. He took
no
the
run
loss. He took the loss last night.
It was 2 runs. That's what it was.
He gave up 2 runs. He lost 2-1. But it was his first loss at Norfolk. He's 3-1 with a 3.75 ERA.
See, I don't think Cole Irvin though is making Dean Kremer's seat hot. I don't think it'd be him. I think it'd be DL Hall if it's anybody.
I mean, and let's talk about DL Hall then for a little bit because he in his last start 5 innings pitched, 3 hits allowed, 8 strikeouts, no runs. That's the good. The bad, 4 walks, 95 pitches, and I believe it was like 52 strikes.
Yeah. We good over there?
Yeah, I'm good. So DL Hall, he said he came up and he finished the game out last Saturday, the first game of the doubleheader. He finished things out the last 4 innings. I think he went, and he had said before the game when he was talking to one of the reporters or one of the broadcasters that he wasn't worried about results to start the season. It was about getting lengthened and getting deeper in the games and getting the pitch count up, and that now he was going to start looking for results. Shutout ball in his last start. 4 walks. Now, look, we've talked about this before. Dylan Cease finished second in AL Cy Young voting last year. Led the American League in walks and finished second in strikeouts.
And he probably will again.
Yeah. So, do you take DL Hall that can give you 5, maybe 6 innings of anywhere from 0 to 3 run ball, probably strike out 8 to 10 in those 5 or 6 innings, but also probably walk 3 to 5 in those 5 to 6 innings.
Well, just to update on Dylan Cease, though. So this year,
ERA is like 4.58.
His ERA is 4.58. He's walking 4.8 guys per 9, when last year was only 3.8. So I think that one extra guy is really affecting him. You look at a lot of the other numbers, strikeouts per 9 are 0.1 apart. I mean, a lot of these numbers are very similar for Dylan Cease, but you see that extra guy being walked as the reason he's not having a lot of success. And I think that's going to be the same as DL Hall in a lot of cases. I think DL Hall should be focusing on results all the time. I don't think length should be something that his coaches are worrying about, the Orioles front office is worrying about. I don't think he should be worrying about that. I think he should be worrying about getting results because that, at the end of the day, is what's going to get him at the major league level and have him stay at the major league level.
But also, we know he's a major league pitcher.
I think so.
He's a major league pitcher.
He has the stuff for it.
He absolutely does. He has the best stuff in the organization. And so right now, maybe he's not looking for results because he's focused on pitchability. We've seen him. He can throw 100 miles an hour.
Sure, yeah.
But he's been staying around 90 to
96.
Well, in his last start, he was 90 to 93.
Oh, wow, okay.
So
I did not see that.
We've been seeing him take something off the fastball trying to find command. Because if you can locate 93, it has the same effect as 98, I would imagine.
I guess so. Yeah, that's fair.
So for him, it might not be about results right now. It's about trying to find that pitchability because they know and he knows his stuff is good enough to play at the big league level at a high level. He's got to hone it. So I'm interested to see his next couple of starts. There's a couple of guys. I mean, Bradish's seat might be getting warm because he was really good against Detroit until he wasn't. Those first 4 innings, he was excellent. And then the 5th inning, I don't know if he was tipping pitches or if he was wearing down or what it was, but he gave up 4 runs in that 5th inning. He didn't even make it out of the inning. And this was the day after, and they had an off day the next day, but this was the day after a doubleheader where they had to use a lot of pitches. Yeah. I mean, a lot of pitchers. So there's Drew Rom had 11 strikeouts in his last start. He's been pitching really well down there. Bruce Zimmerman's been okay down there. I don't think that I think he's a 4A pitcher.
I'll say this about Drew Rom. I think Drew Rom is going to be a starting pitcher for the Orioles sooner than DL Hall will be. I think Drew Rom is the next guy. If the Orioles want to call up a guy to replace someone, I think it's going to be Drew Rom.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. because they already called DL Hall up.
They did, but just for a doubleheader.
For a doubleheader, but they went to Drew Rom, I think, a start early because of that. And then DL Hall has the experience in the majors and at AAA that Drew Rom doesn't have. That Drew Rom doesn't have. I think DL Hall is 100%. It's either DL Hall or Cole Irvin, who's the next call up, and it's probably going to be Cole Irvin. Let's be honest.
That's a good point. Cole Irvin could be.
It's not. I don't think it's a could be. I think it is. I think he is. I think he's the next guy that they call up, but he's also yet to have. I mean, 7 innings of 2-run ball in the minor leagues is good. It's good. It's good anywhere, but we've yet to see him dominate down to AAA. And if you expect him to have, I mean, he has a 3.75 ERA at AAA. What's that going to be in the big leagues?
Right. That's my point.
4.5?
See, I don't know if that's. If you look at purely production, Drew Rom has been the best guy. Mm-hmm. He's been the best out of the three by far. Drew Rom has been really, really good this year. DL Hall has been good in a number of starts and here and there, but Cole Irvin I don't think has dominated at all. I don't think there's been one outing where we said, okay, there's the Cole Irvin that was in the major leagues last year.
Yeah.
And he put up a 3.98 ERA.
Yeah, he had a 3.98 ERA last year. It's not like he was pitching to a 3.3 last year.
Still, 3.98 is very respectable.
It is, but I don't think that you look at him and think, oh, that's a dominant pitcher. That's just a guy who gets outs.
I agree with that. But by the way, Darryl Hernandez, update on him, who was traded for Cole Irvin. He's hitting .292 with a 3.42 on-base percentage. He's got 2 home runs. He's stolen 5 bases, .759 OPS. So pretty decent start for Darryl Hernandez.
Is he in the minors?
He is in AA.
He's in AA.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The Orioles, another comeback victory last night. They found themselves down 1-0 after the first inning. Of course, they win the ball game 9-4. The offense led the way last night, led by Anthony Santander with his 2 homers and 5 RBIs. Cedric Mullins, a home run, a single, 2 RBIs. Ryan McKenna reached base 3 times, 2 infield hits and a walk last night.
Sure
he also
did.
had I think he had a stolen base, didn't he?
He did have a stolen base, yeah.
This offense is keeping the Orioles in games, especially when they're pitching isn't doing well. The Orioles were up 8-1 in the 3rd inning against the Royals on Thursday, and then found themselves down 9-8 in the 7th inning. Ended up winning that game 13-10, thanks in part to Ramon Urias's 2 hits and 4 RBIs coming off the bench to pinch hit for Gunnar Henderson in the 8th inning, I believe it was. Offense is looking really good. Anthony Santander has 4 straight multi-hit games. Zach, with his bat coming alive now, how much better is this offense?
It's a massive difference. Again, because he's a guy who's hitting 3 or 4 every night. And that's the biggest thing. If Santander was batting 8th or 9th, wouldn't really matter that much, I don't think. If he's hitting 200, but he gets a home run every here and there, whatever, that was Jorge Mateo last year, more or less. But Santander has taken a big step in the past few weeks. He's added more power. He's shown he can get on base more. The numbers have started to return to look more like Anthony Santander. And what I mean by that, I mean 250 hitter, 315 on base percentage, hopefully gets to 30 home runs this year. That would be where I hope he ends up. And I think that's what he's starting to look like. More of that hitter than the guy he was for the first month of the season. So that's a good thing. That's a really good thing.
Last year, Ryan Ripken posted this last night, and I didn't realize this. Santander in April this year had a higher batting average, more walks, less strikeouts, more home runs, and more RBIs than he had in April last year.
That's not saying much, though.
It's not saying much. People forget how bad Santander was to start the year last year.
He was.
Is what I'm saying. And he ended up leading all switch hitters last year in baseball.
Yeah.
In home runs, and the Orioles in home runs and RBIs. So maybe rumors of his demise were, I can't remember the saying, were greatly exaggerated.
Okay.
Because he got off to a slow start last year, and his start this year is better than the start was last year.
Well, if you look at his career numbers, his career batting average is 245, and his career on base is 300. Right now, he's batting 241, his on base is 303. It's right in line with his career numbers, and that's, again, kind of where I expect him to be throughout the entire year.
Yeah, last year he hit 241, and the year before that he hit 240. This is exactly who he is.
Flipped, yeah, and then the on-base percentages were 286 and 318 over the past 2 years. Yeah. So that's what he's going to be. I think that, and he's progressing to that.
I do like his willingness to take a walk.
I do
I
too.
like his willingness to take a walk. That's something that we hadn't seen to start his career for sure. And then we're burying the lead here, and the lead is that the Orioles have 3 catchers on their 26-man active roster.
Hate it.
We all hate it. I understand why they did it, because Adley Rutschman has not had a full day off. His 1 game off, he still pinch hit.
Yeah. And
it was a doubleheader, and he started the second game. But they're playing him every day. they're DHing James McCann a lot,
Yeah.
and when James McCann is catching, they're DHing Rutschman.
Yeah.
If one of those guys gets hurt, you need another guy, and they had the guys that they would have had on their taxi squad are injured right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Taron Vavra's been catching a little bit down at AAA.
Maverick Hanley's been injured, I believe.
Yeah, he has a hand contusion.
Who would be probably the next man up, you would assume?
Ben Boom.
Ben Boom, obviously. He was, but I don't know if they'd want to go to a younger guy, someone who they haven't really given a run yet. I mean, Ben Boom
he's hitting like 500 in AAA.
One for two?
No, he's played 5 or 6 games.
Okay, all right, fair.
But I mean, they know who Anthony Ben Boom is.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, Luis Torrens, they pick him up. He doesn't have like a negative bat. He can hit a little bit.
He hit 15 home runs like 3 years ago.
Yeah, he's a decent defensive catcher. So it's I cannot believe they're carrying 3 catchers.
Well, Luis Torrens is probably better than Robinson Chirinos was. But that's not really saying much.
But James McCann is better than both of them.
But James McCann has looked like, and I saw you tweet it the other day, he's looked like a legit Major League bat. Mm-hmm. I think he's looked better than that. James McCann has been better than a backup catcher should be.
He's hitting 200.
In my opinion.
He's hitting 200.
I know, but the power's been there. He's getting the extra base hit, like the one he got last night that
he's hitting the ball hard.
I love how much he hustled on that extra base hit last night. I love that.
He's been really good defensively.
Yeah, and I was going to get to that.
I think he's caught 3 of 5 base stealers.
Yeah.
So, or two of 5.
The arm is really good.
The arm's
James
really
McCann.
good. He threw a guy out at second base from his knees at the game.
Yeah, he did.
For the Red Sox, at the game I was at with Ryan Blake. Yep. We got to get Stan on the line. I don't like the idea of them carrying 3 catchers. I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be short lived. But I really don't like it. But I understand why they did, because McCann and Rutschman have been in the lineup at the same time a lot this year, and you don't want to risk losing one of your catchers. So, while he gets Stan on the line, I want to remind you today's show is brought to you by. Well, it's brought to you by the Toyota Tacoma. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Joining us now on the line for his weekly segment is Stan, the fan. Charles, Stan, good morning. How are you?
Great. How you doing?
Doing well, especially with how well the Orioles are playing right now. Stan, they come away with a 9-4 victory over the Atlanta Braves last night. Dean Kremer steps up in a big way after that debacle on Thursday, going 6 innings of 1-run ball. It's been an up-and-down season for Dean Kremer, mostly down, but there's something, Stan, about facing tougher competition that makes players rise to the occasion.
Not so sure of that, but he pitched a good ball game last night. So, he was so good last year once he got on his roll that I'm not all that tremendously worried about Dean Kremer. Like that he's on thin ice every start. He's not yet a finished product, so you're going to have a few bumps and bruises with him, but. I think he's a solid Major League Baseball pitcher.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Stan. There's a difference between 2023 Dean Kremer and 2021 Dean Kremer, for example, where he just went out there every night in 2021 and got his breaks beaten off. Whereas this year he shows signs of breaking out and being really good at different times. He had the shutout against the Nationals, a 1-run performance last night. Against the Red Sox, he gave up 4 runs in the first 3 innings and then shut them down into the 6th inning after that. So the signs are there. His cutter just isn't moving a lot. But I agree with you. I think that he's on the cusp of figuring it out and giving them quality and giving them length each time out. So I don't disagree with you there. Now,
I think frankly they've got 3 starters that all fall into that category, and that's Grayson Rodriguez, Dean Kremer, and Kyle Bradish. They're very unfinished products. They are not. We might be talking 2 years from now about a very special trio there, but when you're trying to upend the Tampa Bay Rays and finish in front of the American League East or really be competitive, it's not exactly what you need. And look, Kyle Gibson has been like a good soldier, and he's doing a lot of the things. And I think he's actually a better pitcher than Jordan Lyles. but he's doing a lot of those things. But he's sort of a number one. He's your number one starter designee. He's not a number one starter.
No.
And the Orioles still are greatly missing a guy that can go out there and really serve that role, even if they're really a number two pitcher. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kyle Gibson, let's be honest. I mean, he was a great prospect with the Minnesota Twins 10 years ago. Never pitched to his potential in Minnesota. Had a breakout season with the Texas Rangers, made the All-Star team, and then was traded in the second half of the season to the Phillies, and he was never very good in Philadelphia. And that's who the Orioles sort of said, hey, that's who we're going to spend money on for pitching. And, you know, they're getting sort of what they paid for.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, they are. They are. Now, there are times when Tyler Wells looks like he might be the best pitcher on the staff. Grayson Rodriguez, that second game of the doubleheader last Saturday, looked the best I think he's ever looked at the big league level. I mean, he allowed 3 base runners, no runs, and 9 strikeouts in 5 innings. Then had a dud.
But he followed it up with a pathetic performance.
Yeah, he was really bad on Thursday.
That really set the pitching staff back.
Yeah.
That, you know, that day cost the Orioles a lot, you know, in terms of you know.
Their bullpen, yeah, they had 3 different guys out of the bullpen throw 20 pitches or more, and Brian Baker threw 18. None of those guys were available last night. They managed to pull out a win last night. But Stan, that brings me to this point. The starting rotation was bad all week. They've been mediocre all year, with the exception of that 1 week when they played the A's, the Nationals, and the Tigers. Do you think that if the Orioles are still playing at a very high level, that they'll go out and make a necessary move to bring in that top of the rotation guy to give them that playoff push?
I definitely think they will. I think it's kind of a catch-22, though. It'll be decided by how well they're playing and what their chances are. You know, there's a certain calculus to what you're willing to give up if you're, you know, if suddenly we go on a streak like the Yankees have been on and fall behind 4 other teams, I think they're less likely to spring a big trade.
Sure.
But I'd like to see them be a little bit more proactive and try and make that deal in early to mid-June, you know.
Yeah.
And then have that and not worry about, well, what are we going to do when John Means comes back? Because you're not going to know beforehand what you're going to get with John Means.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Chris Sale come back from Tommy John surgery, and I think we can all agree that Chris Sale is probably a better pitcher than John Means before the injuries. And Chris Sale came back. It took him 2 years to get back to being.
And he's still not back.
Yeah,
he's still not back.
I think you can expect nothing with John Means.
Yeah,
there's really no number you can even put on what you expect from him because he's that much of an unknown.
I think you can build up your expectations based on what his rehab assignment's like. And you know the pitcher, the hitters that he faces will tell us a little bit about what we can expect from him.
That's very true.
But you're right. You really can't say, hey, well, if we get John Means back, we'll have a lefty starter that should have been, you know, on the team, and he's going to win 6 games. You don't know. He's a wild card right now, is what he is.
He absolutely is.
The question really is, and it starts to be, is who are some of the candidates that you would want to really plug into the Orioles pitching staff? And the one that stands out to me right now, although the Tigers have suddenly started playing better baseball, and who knows in that division now, the way that division is, maybe they'll make a chase for the division title before it's all said and done. But I would think that they would like to get out of that Eduardo Rodriguez contract.
Yeah, and he's been phenomenal this year. Somebody else mentioned him being possibly traded to the Orioles as a deadline deal. I don't know, Stan. I don't know how much. I don't know if they want to pay. If the Tigers don't want to pay him, I don't know if the Orioles want to pay him.
The biggest problem is, Well, the Tigers don't want to pay him now because they've been forfeit for the last year and a half. So, and also he had his problems last year with whatever off-the-field thing, coincided with his signing a 5-year contract,
Yeah.
But the bigger problem in acquiring him is what do you give up for a player that you want for the next 3 years? He's got the right price point for the next 3 years, but he's got an opt-out after this year.
Yeah.
How do you work that in the acquisition cost? Because I don't want to give up 2 or 3 prospects for 2 months of Eduardo Rodriguez. So you have to be able to nail him down. And the only way I can think of is if the Orioles would sweeten his overall total compensation in his contract by buying out the opt-out, and that might cost as much as $10 million, something like that.
Well, I mean, Mike Elias is pretty savvy when it comes to this kind of stuff, so I'm sure that he would figure out how to do that because I don't think he wants to give up 2 or 3 prospects for 2 months of Eduardo Rodriguez either. But
I don't think he wants to give up two or three prospects for 2 months of anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Now, here's the thing, Stan. In order to make those moves, they have to get there first. And boy, they're off to the right start. 22-10, 18-5 in their last 23 games, 16-4 their last 20. They beat the Braves last night. They beat Max Fried, who may have been the early Cy Young favorite in the National League. Had only given up 1 run all year. The Orioles tattooed him for 7 runs, 5 earned last night, including a couple of long home runs from Santander and Cedric Mullins. This team is playing really good baseball, and the story behind it was, well, their schedule was soft. Well, now they just beat the Braves, who had the second best record in baseball. It's 1 game. I understand that. What do the Orioles need to do over this next month, this gauntlet that they started last night, to convince you that they're more than just a team who played well against lesser competition?
Well, I haven't written the Orioles story, that says that we've had the benefit of a light schedule.
Sure.
I mean, we played the Yankees. We played the hold on, let me just see. We played Boston. Texas is a first division team right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're like 18-11. We played the Yankees. We played Boston, and we played Boston twice. And now we're playing the Braves. So
yeah.
I mean, the team that really got off the mark this year by having the easiest schedule was the Tampa Bay Rays. But you can't say that about them because we were saying that about them 10 days ago, and all they've done is
win,
beat the Astros in a series and beat Pittsburgh, swept Pittsburgh, who had been playing at a high level. So I haven't written the story that the Orioles benefited from a soft schedule, but I'd say that they got to keep winning. That's what they got to do. They're going to face that. They've got there's a good word for it, the gauntlet this next 3 weeks.
Yeah,
they've got Tampa coming up. They got the Angels, who are playing at a very high level. And isn't it interesting how I compare what happened to Joe Madden in L.A. to what Joe Girardi had happened in Philadelphia, which was a guy who was managing on his reputation, not doing a very good job at managing. And, of course, they've gotten better. There's no question about it. They spent some money to get better, the Angels. But we've got Tampa, Pittsburgh, the Angels, Toronto, and the Yankees in Texas.
Yeah.
That's a pretty tough 5 teams.
Yeah, you also got to play Cleveland, who can pitch.
I'd say we play a good bit better than 500 during that stretch. We'll be for real,
Yeah.
But I think we're more than a passing fancy right now, the Orioles.
Now, in order to continue this run, the pitching, the bullpen's been one of the best in baseball. They've faltered a little bit, specifically Mike Baumann, his last 3 starts. He's allowed his last 3 outings. He's allowed 3 home runs and 7 runs in his last 3 outings after allowing just 1 run and no home runs in his previous 11 outings. Stan, his ERA jumped from 0.61 to 4.08 in those 3 games. Tate hasn't pitched particularly well in his rehab assignments. Givens could be closer. Has Baumann pitched his way off of this team when Givens is ready to come back?
It's a possibility. I would think that Aiken and Baumann are the lowest hanging fruit. They both have options, and I think they're both in a little bit of trouble right now in terms of staying on the ball club.
At what point is CNL Perez in trouble? Because they keep running him out there. They keep giving him his opportunities. Stan, he's got a 5.25 ERA, and he's at a 2.417 whip in 12 innings pitched. At what point is it, all right, man, we can't trust you anymore?
Well, fortunately for the Baltimore Orioles, they have a pretty good pitching coach that I would trust what he would say rather than what Stan the fan says.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Sure.
what I'm saying there. Chris Holt, you got to believe that Chris Holt helped CNL Perez have the year he had last year. And when I say Chris Holt, I mean Chris Holt and Darren Holmes.
Sure.
Okay, they're kind of a tandem, the way Dave Wallace and Dom Chidi were a couple years ago. In the coaching staff. I would think that Chris Holt would be reluctant to give up on somebody like CNL Perez at this point in time, and just out and out lose him versus Aiken or Baumann going down. And, it's a shame. Baumann has looked so good, but he really has gotten hurt by that long ball all of a sudden.
Yeah, he's really been struggling his last
And they're not
three outings.
They're not solo shots.
No,
they're 3-run shots.
Yeah, one solo shot and 2 3-run homers his last 3 outings. Yep. It's been he needs to kind of figure it out again because I don't know that either Givens or Tate are coming back in the next couple of days. Maybe Givens sometime next week. But Baumann's got to figure it out. He's got to figure it out fast because he could be susceptible to the option at this point.
Where are both of them pitching right now?
I believe that I know Tate was at Double-A. And I think Givens is at Double-A as well, but I could be
They
wrong.
were both there last time I checked, yeah.
They were both. Yeah, that's
okay.
That's what I thought. Now, Voth, on the other hand, Stan, has gone from being just awful to start the year to now he's allowed 1 run in his last 5 outings, covering 7 2/3 innings. That run came in a 3-inning performance. He's lowered his ERA from 9 to 5.17. Are we back to trusting Austin Voth to get the job done day in and day out for the Orioles?
Well, I think I liked, it's interesting. I re-picked him up on my fantasy baseball team about 8 days ago. And, it hasn't been, he's not lights out and he's not fantastic. And he accomplishes very little for your fantasy team because he's not a starting pitcher. But I liked what I heard that Brandon Hyde sort of blamed his early season problems on adjusting to being a relief pitcher. And that made some sense to me because last year he did pitch some in relief, but that second half when he really settled in, they weren't long starts. He didn't go 7 2/3 innings, but he'd go 4 2/3 as a starter, and his mentality was as a starter last year. And I think that probably affected him this year, and he's getting used to it, and the results have been much better the last 4 or 5 outings for both.
Yeah, he sure has been pitching a lot better to this point than he was to start the year. He given up a home run in each of his first 5 outings and hasn't given up one since, knock on wood. Seeing him get better is certainly something because he was really good for the team last year. He had the elite spin on his curveball and on his fastball. He's a legitimate pitcher, I think, if he can hone things in. It seems like he's starting to do that right now. Now, as far as the offense, Stan, we talked about how good can this offense be once Gunnar Henderson and Anthony Santander get going. Gunnar has shown signs of coming to life, although I think he still swings through too many fastballs. Santander, 4 straight multi-hit performances. He had a 2-home-run game last night, including his first career grand slam. His bat has gotten hot and gotten back to the level that we're accustomed to seeing it at. How much better is this offense that was still scoring 5.5 runs a game before he got hot?
Well, there's no question he's the centerpiece of the offense. He and Mountcastle are the guys that Brandon Hyde entrusts with the 3-4 slots, which are run production, and now he's kind of joined the fray, and he's hitting at a very high level right now. So obviously the overall offense is going to be, to me, the key player that really has that other gear is Mountcastle. You know,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden, this rash of extra base hits he's had,
8
pretty
straight.
spectacular when he's really when he's on,
Yeah.
as a hitter.
Yeah, and that's the thing about
Paul, I got a question for you. Paul, I got
Yes,
a
sir.
question for you.
Yeah.
If you had to look at Gunnar Henderson's game right now and said, what is the weakest part of his game, what would you say?
The weakest part of his game right now?
Yeah. Something that he's not good at. And I'm not even talking, I'll give you a hint, I'm not even talking about his offense.
I guess you could say his defense. But I think it's. His defense has gotten better.
Have you watched him track pop-ups? He's absolutely amateurish at tracking pop-ups.
Do you think he's amateurish? Or do you think he's amateurish at tracking pop-ups from third base as opposed to shortstop? Because I think
no. I think it's a weakness in his game that again, I still love the player, but I don't know when he's going to get good at that. The outfielders need to know that they have to take charge every time he's going for a pop-up, because he does not track them, have a real sense of where the ball is going. He gets very lost. I don't know if it's something that he didn't do in the minor leagues and he's getting lost in the big leagues, but I've seen it 3 or 4 times this year.
Yeah.
It's been with both Hayes and McKenna as well in left field. And they've come down the line. The ball's kind of been between those two, and Gunnar doesn't really know if he should be the one to get it. That's what I've seen as well. I think that's a really good point by Stan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really think he's I think he's probably often dependent upon the outfielders to make the plays, and otherwise you're going to be in trouble with him. I just don't think he tracks pop-ups. Now, when they're in front of him, I don't have any problem. Like there was one, I think, last night that he caught in fair territory. It's not like I'd say, Gunnar Henderson. It's when he's backing up. When he's running hard, I think he's like his pants are on fire.
So here's,
and he's not really concentrating.
So Stan, I'll tell you. I'll tell you from my experience, right? And I'm no professional, but from my experience, I've played a lot of outfield and I've played a lot of the left side of the infield, shortstop and third base. When there's a pop-up over your head, if you're not running on the balls of your feet, if you're running on your heels, you're bouncing around constantly. The ball's bouncing around in the air. There's also something to be said for, instead of running to a spot and then trying to find the ball, tracking it the whole time while looking at it. Maybe he's doing that. He's running on his heels and looking at the ball the entire way instead of saying, you know what, this ball looks like it's getting to this spot. Let me get there and then track it. And maybe that's just something he needs to learn, but it's kind of hard to teach that while you're playing at the big league level every single day.
No question about it. No question about it. I'm not saying it's something he should be benched for. I'm just saying I'd be curious if both of you keep an eye on that now and say, boy, Stan was interesting. But I really think it's when you have somebody that has a deficiency, it's up. I'd like to talk to Brandon Hyde about it, like individually one time. I don't want to really even bring it up at a presser. I'd like to just see what he says about it.
It's something that
an interesting point, and I wonder if there needs to be a discussion with Mullins and Hayes and McKenna, like, hey, you really need to take charge right now until he gets a little more adept at that. So.
Yeah, Stan, when you brought that up, I thought you were going to mention the arm overall, because we've heard about having plus arm strength, but not necessarily plus arm accuracy. Have you noticed the arm accuracy being a little bit worse than you could have expected coming out of Gunnar Henderson?
I would say that his accuracy is it's a little bit alarming. What it really is, it shows how phenomenal the hit tool was last year.
Right.
To have made that meteoric rise to get from A ball to the major leagues, So I don't think anybody was really paying much attention to how he fielded, and there's no question he's a better shortstop than he is a third baseman.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
So you think it somewhat got glossed over because people saw the bat and said, okay, this is the number one prospect in baseball, and the focus wasn't as much on the defense. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, I've been paying attention to his game recently, and I think he's improved.
It's been better all around. Yeah.
No question, he has improved.
Yeah.
The arm accuracy, it's strong, and it's been better. And I think it was all with his arm, with him being inaccurate throwing the baseball. I think it was all a timing thing more than anything else. It was he gets a ground ball and then pats the glove once or twice before he throws. It's getting the ball and releasing, and having that same timing mechanism on every ground ball that's going to get his arm ultimately to be the most accurate.
Sometimes, though, I think
the timing mechanism at third is different than it is at short.
Very, very different.
You got a little bit longer at third base, really, to make the play. But it's also you're kind of a lot of times at short. You're surrounding the ball, and your momentum has got you in a position to throw better. Whereas at third, you don't have time to surround balls. You got to just be in front of them, and make the play.
We talk about pressing at the plate, where you're trying too hard to impress, the coaching staff, the people who surround you. I think there's part of Gunnar that was pressing the field as well, where every throw he was trying to put everything he had behind it, and that led to some of the arm inaccuracies. Because the arm strength, again, it's plus. He can throw incredibly hard.
And I'll tell you, last year, I remember being at opening day last year, and I watched in infield warm-ups before the first inning, Ramon Arias starting at third base, he bounced 2 or 3 throws over the first base, and then he had trouble with it in the game as well.
Yep.
He ended up winning the Gold Glove over there, and the arm got better and better to now when he throws it, it's getting there and it's hitting the guy in the chest. I have no doubts Gunnar's figuring it out.
I think 2-3 weeks from now we won't even be talking about the arm.
Yeah.
I think that'll settle in.
Definitely a timing issue.
The play I'm talking about, the kind of play I'm talking about, as Paul mentioned, is very hard. I don't know how exactly you work on that. You get a coach to hit fungos.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that he can replicate hitting as high as it gets hit in a game.
Yeah, well, the way that you would do that, the way I would try and do it if I were coaching anyway, is I would say, hey, look, we're going to hit you pop-ups. Don't worry about catching the ball. Worry about getting to the spot where you think that ball is going to go, and then find it. And that's just kind of what you got to do.
That's exactly right.
Right. Don't worry about catching it.
That's what a great outfielder does. Has the innate ability to go to where the ball's going to be, not where it is at the moment you start tracking it.
That's when I played in college, that's what my college coach told me. He said, run to a spot. And they always teach you run to a spot, but he would say, don't worry about catching the ball. Worry about getting to the spot and then find the ball. So, and I'm sure, Stan, if we're talking about it, they're talking about it. And they know, we know baseball. They know more than we do. That's why they're where they are. So they're probably on top of it already, I would imagine. So. All right, Stan, let's talk a little bit about your power rankings before we let you go today. Now, your power rankings came out 5 days ago. Your top 5 was Tampa Bay, Toronto, Atlanta, Milwaukee, and then the Orioles at number 5. Through this past week of baseball, has your power rankings list changed at all? Not to give your article away.
It's interesting that you say that because my top 5 was a little shuffled around last week with the Orioles and Milwaukee being in the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Milwaukee's lost 4 in a row. Toronto lost 4 in a row before winning last night.
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh, who had moved all the way to number 6, they've lost 4 in a row. And so there's going to be some moving around again. In other words, the teams that were like 11, San Diego's won 4 in a row this week. They'll be back in the top 10, and we'll see how it shuffles around. But Pittsburgh and Milwaukee, both on 4-game losing streaks within the week, and Toronto had a 4-game losing streak. That's a little surprising,
Yeah.
There's no question that having the Orioles 5 and Pittsburgh 6 was probably a little aggressive for both the Orioles and Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh especially, they really were kind of humbled by the Tampa Bay Rays, and then last night by Toronto.
And Stan, actually, the Brewers and the Pirates have both extended those losing streaks to 5 in a row.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. From last week.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Stan.
San Diego had a good week. They played Cincinnati. It swept them rather easily at home. but they won a big game against the Dodgers last night against Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, all right, Sam, what do you got coming up this week?
We're changing the format of our Monday Zoom a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be on at 6:00, but it's no longer going to be a guest every week on that show. We're adding Luke is going to join Ross and I, and we're going to talk power rankings because the power rankings come out on Mondays. We're going to talk power rankings and then talk about the Orioles a little bit where they are, and almost do a little bit like a pregame show. So,
Gotcha.
Okay. Because a lot of the games start at 6:40, so we'll be on from 6 to 6:20, 6:25.
That'll be
By
fun.
the way, I'll add one other team. The Phillies had moved back from like 21 to 15. They lost 4 in a row this week. So a lot of good teams really struggling this week.
Yeah, it's weird for the Phillies because they got Bryce Harper back and they still lost 5 in a row. Definitely something to pay attention to. All right, Stan, great stuff. We will talk to you next Saturday, all right?
All right. Always enjoy it. Yep. Talk to you soon, guys. Bye.
And that was Stan the Fan Charles, who continues to have 2 great shows for you every week. Every Monday night, Stan and former Orioles pitcher Ross Grimsley visit with a different guest from the world of baseball. And every Thursday night, Stan and Gary Stein chat with a different newsmaker from the world of sports. This week, Stan and Ross caught up with Aberdeen Ironbirds GM Jack Graham. Then Stan also chatted with Orioles executives Jennifer Grandal and TJ Brightman. You can find these shows under the videos tab at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or PressBoxOnline.com/video. Stan and Ross are back, as he just alluded to, with Luke Jackson at 6 o'clock this Monday to kind of go over here the power rankings, the Orioles season, and serve as a bit of a pregame show. All that and more coming up with Stan this week. We're going to catch a break. When we come back, we're going to sound off with Zach Goodman. We're going to talk the payoff pitch around the league and more. That's next on the Bet Around.
Hartford Community College in Bel Air, Maryland, along with the National Junior College Athletic Association's Region 20, will host the 2023 NJCAA Men's Lacrosse National Championship May 13th and 14th at Hartford Sports Complex, 401 Thomas Run Road in Bel Air. Semifinals are on Saturday, May 13th. The National Championship is Sunday, May 14th. Catch the action for $10 each day. Tickets will be available in advance or at the gate on game day. Qualifying teams will be announced.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the pipeline of talent still to come for the Orioles, diving in on last year's #1 pick Jackson Holliday and other top prospects like Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, and more. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles Orioles pitcher Kyle Gibson, and Bo Smolka breaks down what progress would mean for the team's 2022 draft picks in their second pro season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? A.J. Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Costas Inn has been serving up delicious steamed crabs for over 50 years. Lately, the crabs you want to eat when the weather warms up have gotten harder and harder to get, so get your crab eating game plan in place. Make sure to stick this number on your fridge, 410-477-1975. Call ahead and reserve the size crabs you want. You may be able to walk in, but you may also be disappointed at the size or maybe even get shut out altogether. So call ahead, have a plan, and then arrive on your crab eating vacation. Costas also has delicious crab soup and crab cakes. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. For more than 50 years, they've been satisfying crab lovers in and around Baltimore.
Welcome
Paul
back.
has the dirtiest mind in the world.
Why would you say that on the show?
I'm not going to say what you said. No, let's not go into that. I don't want to go into that.
We won't. The Big Rod. Press Box's Glenn Clark Radio is a definitive place to find the best daily discussion of Baltimore sports. Watch the show every weekday from 10 to noon at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or Facebook.com/PressBoxSports or listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio with podcasts available on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. You never know who might pop up on GCR. This week, the guys caught up with Ravens fullback Patrick Ricard and draft pick Andrew Voorhees, baseball legend Andrew Jones, and Orioles prospects Jordan Westburg and Cade Povich. You can find those interviews and more right now in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature at PressBoxOnline.com.
By the way, Paul, speaking of the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, 5-year extension. We didn't talk about that yet, so
No, we'll do it later.
Pretty big moment in Baltimore sports history, but you're right.
We'll do it later.
We'll do it later.
I was literally just thinking as I was reading this that we're going to do it later in the show for final thoughts, potentially.
Okay, let's do it.
So it is now time for sounding off with Zachary Allen Goodman, and he has the idea of doing our top 5 power rankings and doing it once a month. So that's what we're going to do.
We'll do it like the first show of every month, and we'll update throughout the year.
I like how I'm the host, and Zach's like, we're doing this.
Well,
the first show
it's
of
every
month.
I want to do it for sounding off. That's the idea. So
I'm just kidding.
Let's get it done. Paul, who do you have at number 5?
I don't have anybody yet.
Okay, I'll start off. I'll start off. So I have the New York Mets at number 5. And the reason for that is the amount of sheer talent that's on the Mets. Obviously, they've struggled a little bit to start off the year. I don't necessarily think that the Mets are a top 5 performing team in baseball right now. But when you look at the talent, I think they will end up at the end of the year as one of the top 5 teams in baseball. I had them as going very deep in the playoffs this year. And with guys coming back and guys starting to get healthier for them, I think the Mets are going to get a lot better. They're over 500. They're 17-16. That's not too far off from a lot of the teams that are going to be in my top 4 here. So I think the New York Mets, even though it's a really tough division, are top 5 for me still.
My number 5 team is the LA Dodgers.
Okay.
I'm going to have them at number 5. They had a really nice last 10-game stretch. They're 7-3, despite last night's game that lost to the Padres and Clayton Kershaw being less than desirable last night. He's been really good. He's looked like vintage Clayton Kershaw this year. The bats are coming around. For me, the Dodgers, they're just playing really good baseball right now, and that's a tough division. I have the Dodgers as my number 5 team.
Okay, I have the Toronto Blue Jays as my number 4 team. Again, the record may not necessarily show. They're not as good as the Pirates. They're not even as good as the Red Sox, but they are a team that, again, has ridiculous talent, and I expect them to be able to turn it around soon. You've got guys like Vlad Guerrero, Bo Bichette. This team will get it going. I think they're a much better team than 19-14 so far. So I have the Blue Jays at number 4.
All right, see, I take the power rankings to be the best team right now.
Right. Interesting, okay.
Right now, not overall, not who I think is going to be the best team at the end of the year. The best team right now.
See, I try to mix it a little bit with who's going to be the best team and who is right now, and the Blue Jays are still 19-14. Pretty respectable record.
They just got swept in a 4-game series by the Boston Red Sox.
The Red Sox are now 20-14, but they did not make my list.
And they don't make my list either.
Yeah.
I was going to put them in, and I'm like, you know what? They were going to be my number 4 team, and then I decided, no, the San Diego Padres are my number 4 team. Fernando Tatis is back, and he's hitting like Fernando Tatis Jr. Manny Machado has gotten hot recently, another multi-hit game last night, 3 in the last 4. Juan Soto has gotten hot. He's been tearing the cover off the ball the last week or so. They beat the Dodgers, who were in first place in their division. They're getting stronger. I think they're going to make a nice little run here. San Diego Padres are my number 4 team right now.
Okay. Not much to be said for this one because we based an entire show off it, but I have the Orioles at 22-10 as my number 3 team. The Orioles have been just about as good as the Orioles can be with the roster that they've constructed. The pitching's been excellent, especially in the bullpen. They have one of the lowest bullpen ERAs in the entire major leagues, and the bats have really been hot lately. Anthony Santander, Ryan Mountcastle starting to get it going in the middle of the order. The Orioles are my number 3 team.
Their ERAs are really great.
ERAs.
Their ERAs are really great. My number
Sounds
3
like the
team,
Californians from SNL.
That's a good one. I like that. I love that skit.
It's a great skit.
My number 3 team is the Atlanta Braves.
Wow, okay.
They're my number 3 team. Third best record in baseball. They have legitimate starting pitching. They have a legitimate offense. look, Acuna, Albies, Riley, Olsen, the rotation with Fried and Strider and Elder has a 1.75
Somehow,
ERA.
yeah.
They're a really, really good baseball team.
Okay.
They won 101 games last year, following a year where they won the World Series. Braves are my number 3 team.
Okay. At number 2, I have the Tampa Bay Rays. I don't think you can have Tampa Bay outside of 2 or 1. You've got to have them somewhere. The only thing is that I have one team ahead of them that I think is just more talented overall as a roster. The Rays have been really good hitting. The Rays have been really good pitching. But I do think the hitting will regress a little bit. I don't think their lineup is as good as I don't really think their lineup is as good as any of these other top 5 teams. I think they have the worst lineup out of all 5 of them. But they've overperformed, and they had a 13-game winning streak to start the year, which is always going to get you in a really good spot. Right now, they are 27-6, which is a 18 winning percentage.
That's going to come down.
They've been unreal. I think that'll come down. I think you'll start to see some regression from the Rays, but they're a top 2 team, maybe top 1, and I think that's where you're going to have them. But I have another team at number 1.
I know the team that you have at number 1. It's obvious.
Yeah.
But my number 2 team is the Baltimore Orioles. It has to be. They have
Really?
the second.
Okay.
They have the second best record in baseball, soft schedule or not. Mm-hmm. They've won 18 of 23.
Well, the Rays have had a very soft schedule too.
Yeah,
they've
but
played...
even after starting 13, I'll talk about the Rays in a second.
Okay.
Look, the Orioles' offense is scoring more than 5.5 runs a game. The bullpen is the best in baseball. I think the rotation is going to get better, and Stan might not think so, but I think that facing tougher competition brings out the best in people.
Okay.
I mean, we saw it with Kyle Bradish last year and Dean Kremer last year against the Houston Astros, where they dominated them. I think that the tougher competition, the idea of, you guys think that we just beat up on bad teams? No, we're really freaking good. It's time that we stop selling the Orioles short. And maybe they go out today and they lose 12-0 to Spencer Strider and the Atlanta Braves. Maybe that happens. But I'm not writing them off anymore. Not that I ever did to begin with. 18-5 in 23 games, 16-4 in the last 20. That's 800 baseball over 3 calendar weeks. They're for real. The Orioles are my number 2 team in baseball.
Okay. So my number 1 team, as you alluded to, is the Atlanta Braves. And the reason I think so is I don't think the Atlanta Braves have a weak spot on their team. I really don't. Maybe Vaughn Grissom is your weakest spot. He's been a little bit struggling with the bat, but I think Vaughn Grissom is 22 years old, and he's going to come around. I believe that. But the starting rotation, as you mentioned, with Elder, with Strider, with Morton, with Fried, they've been incredible. There's been no stopping that starting rotation except last night against the Orioles. That's been the first time where Max Fried has gotten roughed up, but all of these pitchers have been very, very good to start the year. And then the lineup, you have Sean Murphy with a .437 on-base percentage. You have Ronald Acuna with a .445 on-base percentage. You've got home runs all over the board from a ton of guys you wouldn't expect. Eddie Rosario is playing better than you would have expected at his age. There is not a weak spot in that lineup besides Marcell Ozuna still hits for power, not really getting on base as much as he used to. And not the best guy in the world either. But Austin Riley is having a little bit of a year that you wouldn't expect from him, only hitting .248, but he's still getting on base at a .340 clip. There is not many weak spots in this lineup. There's not many weak spots in that starting rotation. This team is complete, and their record shows that. Atlanta Braves, number 1 for me.
My number 1 team is the New York Yankees. No, I'm just kidding.
Really, I thought you'd have the White Sox at number 1.
In the AL East. You talk about their offense and the on-base percentages and this, that, and the other. The number 1 team is the Tampa Bay Rays, and it's not close. It's not close. One, the Braves just lost to the Orioles last night, 9-4.
But that's one game.
But they lost with their best starting pitcher on the mound, who had given up 1 run all year. So your power rankings are your power rankings right now, not for what's going to happen down the line. Do I think the Braves are going to have a better record than the Orioles at the end of the year? Probably. But right now, the Orioles are better than the Braves because they beat them last night. Well, and they beat them going away last night.
Then I think it's fair to put the Pirates in your top 5 too. Then
no, they've lost 5 straight.
I know, but the record is
their record doesn't mean shit, Zach. They lost 5 straight. Power rankings are based on who's the best team right now, and right now the Orioles have won 18 of 23 and 16 of 20.
Yeah.
Right now, the Pittsburgh Pirates have lost 5 straight. Their record be damned. Right now, the Tampa Bay Rays started 13-0, and they've still won 14 of their last 20 games. Right now, the Atlanta Braves just lost to the Baltimore Orioles to fall behind them in the overall Major League Baseball standings. So for right now, the Orioles are the second best team. Right now, the Tampa Bay Rays are the best team in baseball, and it's not close. Their leadoff hitter, Yandy Diaz, .324.
Yeah.
Wander Franco, 304. Randy Arozarena, 328 with 9 home runs. Josh Lowe, 326. Harold Ramirez, 321. Yandy Diaz, 324, by the way, with 9 home runs.
Yeah, Yandy Diaz has been unreal.
Unreal.
But that's my whole point about Tampa Bay. That all is going to come down. I know Yandy Diaz is not going to do that for the entire year.
Then rank them lower. I mean, you can do your power rankings however you want.
There are 2 for me. There are 2 for me.
They're 2 for you.
Yeah.
So, but you base it off of...
I base it off of what a combination of what they're doing now versus what they're going to be at the end of the year. And I think they're going to be a 90-some win team, but I think the Atlanta Braves are going to have 100-plus wins at the end of the year.
In that division, man, I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
Washington's really bad. Miami's been worse than I expected them to be. You obviously have 2 other really good teams, but the Phillies haven't been as good as we expected them to be either.
They'll pick it up. The Phillies,
I mean, they only won 83 games last year.
Yeah, but they were like 9 games under 500 at one point.
Yeah, okay.
Year.
So,
look, the way I've always seen power rankings done, and look, this is your segment, so you do your power rankings however you want. But the way I look at power rankings is it's based on what's happening right now.
Okay.
Right now. And when Tampa Bay, if you want to move Tampa Bay down your list,
there's no problem with having different views on this.
No, nobody's saying that there is. Like I said, this is your segment. You do your power rankings however you want. I'll do my power rankings however I want. And I think that when Tampa Bay's offense inevitably comes back down to earth, because it will, even though they've been one of the better offenses of baseball now for 3 years.
They have.
For 3 years.
And it's weird because they find production in a lot of guys. Like Yandy Diaz is not one of those guys you would expect. He
kind of has been for a good bit now.
He's a better contact hitter than he is power hitter, and he has 9 home runs already, which is kind of unreal to me. I want to see what his 2022 total was for home runs. I can't imagine it was that many. He's been unreal to me.
He hit 9 home runs all year last year.
Exactly. He's not a power hitter.
No, but
he's already hit 9 home runs this year.
But he hit, his last... let's just go 263, 352 average on base percentage. 312, 375, 267, 340, 307, 428, 256, 353, 296, 401, and this year 324, 426.
Career 375 on base guy. He's always been a good on base guy.
He's a good hitter.
He is.
He's a good hitter, and now that power is starting to come. How old is he now?
He is 30. He's
31 years old. Some guys peak later than others. Some guys hit their peak later. It used to be you kind of hit your peak age 27 to 33.
Yeah.
And that's the case for him. That's what's happening right now. Not to mention, he's got a lot of protection. He's got Wander Franco behind him. He's got Josh Lowe. He's got Brandon Lau. He's got Randy Arozarena. The team can hit, and they can pitch. Tampa Bay, for me, is the best team in baseball, and it's not close right now. Now, look, they have a 3-game series coming up. The Yankees right now are so beat up. Giancarlo Stanton's out with a hamstring injury
for a while. Yeah,
Aaron Judge is out.
Yeah,
Carlos Rodon might not pitch this year.
You know what? I don't think Carlos Rodon will.
Yeah, they are so beat up that how could you not see this coming with the Yankees? And last year, if Aaron Judge got hurt at any point last year, the Yankees don't make the playoffs.
I think the Yankees are going to keep struggling. I don't see this really turning around for them because
they're old, man.
This division is just too tough. It's just too tough.
They're old, and they didn't have a contingency plan for these guys who always get hurt, inevitably getting hurt.
I mean, at the end of the day, having Boston at 20-14 is going to be even harder for the Yankees, knowing that Boston is as good as that, because I don't think anyone could have seen Boston at 20-14 going this far into the season.
But I don't think that's going to last.
I don't necessarily think so either, or they would have been in my power rankings, because they have been, as the record shows,
7 straight wins.
Very good. They've been very good.
Yeah, they've won 7 in a row.
It's really hard to discount Boston right now, but they are in a really tough division, and that's why they didn't make they'd be my top 10. Absolutely, because they've shown that. But then again, the starting rotation, I still have a lot of questions there. I think the bats are good. The bats are real good. I
almost put Boston in my top 5. And then I was like, no, I think the Dodgers they're leading a division. They're leading the division. The Padres are getting healthier and getting stronger. And then you can't not have the Rays, Orioles, and Braves in your top 3.
Jarren Duran's hitting .417 for Boston right now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Only 60 at bats, but still .417 and 60 at bats is pretty remarkable. It's good. Rafael Devers has 11 home runs already. I mean,
he's got like 35 RBIs or 38 or something like that.
Where do the Angels sit for you?
Dude, it's just... I can never put them up there because their talent is so much better than their record. Always.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I mean, you have Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout, the two best players in the world, and you're still only 18 and 14.
Yeah.
Last year, at this point in the year, they had one of the best records in baseball, and then they fell flat on their face. They picked up Tyler Anderson. His ERA is above 5.5. They got to show me more. They've got to show me more. Now, I think they're a good team. Rendon is healthy right now, and he's hitting at a decent clip. I have to see it prolonged.
Yeah.
And right now, they're doing what they did last year.
Right.
So
I will say I do think they're built as a better team, roster-wise, just purely on paper than they were last year, but that's not saying a ton because the pitching last year was abysmal. It was abysmal.
yeah.
So I think they're slightly better this year, but I don't necessarily see the Angels being better than the Rangers, and they certainly won't end up the Astros will figure this out. I'm very confident in that.
The Astros, they'll get Altuve back at some point.
Right.
Alex Bregman's not going to hit 208 all
Well,
year.
and the fact that they still have a winning record with as much as they've struggled. I saw a piece the other day. I'm not going to say who the writer was because I don't remember, and I also wouldn't say who it was because I disagree with it. But he said the Astros didn't invest in starting pitching, and that's been a big blow to them this year. But if you looked at that starting rotation to begin the year, they were excellent. I mean, you don't have Justin Verlander anymore, but that's because Justin Verlander is, 40 years old and signed a 2-year contract for, $40 million a year elsewhere. So I don't necessarily agree with that assessment. I think the Astros built their team to be probably the most talented team in baseball, and it just hasn't been the most lucky season for them this year. That's all it's been.
Yeah. And I mean, Luis Garcia's out for the rest of this year and the bulk of next year.
Right, but who could have predicted that?
With Tommy, you couldn't predict that. But
Right.
I mean, unless you just think everybody ends up inevitably having Tommy John surgery.
I'm just saying, if you look at the starting rotation at the beginning of the year, you can't say they didn't invest in starting pitching. It was really good. It was really good. It just hasn't necessarily gone their way.
Yeah, no, I get it. Look, I think the Angels are a good team, and I think that any time that you have to face Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani and Anthony Rendon, it's a scary proposition.
Yeah.
And when Shohei Ohtani's on the mound, good luck. But until they actually prove that they're as good as they should be, I'm not going to buy into them.
Yeah.
They've been a fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me type of team.
Yep, 100%. And I think Texas will be that team too. I don't think Texas is that good.
Well, I mean, DeGrom, he can't stay healthy.
No.
Corey Seager's out with another injury. And that's the thing. When people were comparing Gunnar Henderson to Corey Seager, it's like the type of player, but if they're going to have the same injury history, no thank you.
Right.
No thank you. So,
well, Corey Seager got a lot of money for a guy who doesn't play that often. Mm-hmm. Got a lot of money in a long time. And that's I've talked about these max contracts. I've said it too much on the show, but I don't necessarily agree with them because of how much guys get injured in baseball. It's a long season, and a lot of guys miss huge chunks of them. And Aaron Judge is another one of those guys.
Aaron Judge got a ton of money.
Yeah, and he's already hurt.
To be a ton of money for a guy who he's played 2 full seasons in his career. Now, granted, that was his rookie year when he hit 52 home runs, and that was last year when he hit 62 home runs.
So here's the thing with Judge, though, as well, and Stanton's another one of those guys who I'm about to talk about. The guys that get injured as much as Corey Seager and Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge do, the minor injuries like those guys have last a lot longer than minor injuries for guys who don't get injured have. Austin Hayes is another one of those guys where it's a minor injury turns into something that's a really long, drawn-out process. For Aaron Judge, he might not be back for a month or something like that because that's how usually it goes for Aaron Judge. And that's how it's gone historically.
Look, we talk about how horses, they're so big that when they break
Kentucky
their leg,
Derby today, apparently. Paul told me.
Yeah, when they break their leg, you have to put them down, right?
Mm-hmm.
You talk about Great Danes, how they're beautiful, wonderful dogs, but when they stand on their hind legs, they're over 7 feet tall.
Yeah.
And they live to be about 7 or 8 years old because they're just too damn big.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton are going to die in their 50s. But what I am saying is that their bodies are more prone to break down because they're giants. They are both 6 foot 7 feet tall.
Right.
And they both weigh 270 of solid muscle.
And again, it's historically been true that it's taken these guys a really long time to rehab and get
Their
back.
bodies are so big that their injuries last. Their bodies break down. You're not meant to be that big. You're not. The average height for a man is like 5'9.5" or 5'10". These guys at 6'7", you're huge. Your body's going to break down. You're not meant to be that big. You just aren't. So when they get hurt, it's not a surprise. It's not. It's also not a surprise when you look at the NBA and you look at how I keep hearing this commercial from this guy. He's like, at 6'6", I'm small for a forward.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're a giant.
Some guy who played in the NBA back then. I don't remember who it was, but
You are a giant at 6'6", a giant.
yeah.
Like, there's no getting around it. And you're small for your league. That's why these guys need days off for maintenance. Because your body's not meant to be that big and have the stress put on it that you put on
I think
it.
you see in the NBA, Anthony Davis being as huge as he is, has had so many injuries over the years. So many. And it always takes him a very long time to get back.
Dwight Howard.
Yeah.
Shaq was never a sprinter. He just stood there and stood outside the paint long enough to not get a 3-second. And then he would just get the ball and just literally just plop
and
it over your head.
And to get back to the original point, it's just hard to give out contracts like that to guys who are similar to Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. It's just unfortunately the way it is. Aaron Judge is going to be.
They do though,
and they do because I feel like teams for the most part are forced to. If the Yankees didn't have Aaron Judge right now, and which they don't currently, but if they didn't have him on this team, the Yankees would be the worst team in the American League East. They'd be the worst team, talent-wise, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they didn't have Aaron Judge is by far the best player in that lineup. It's not close. There's no one even remotely
else
close.
Is 117 years old. Everybody
except
else
Anthony Volpe, but yeah.
Yeah, and he's not that good right now.
Anthony
he will be.
Anthony Rizzo is a fine Major League Baseball player. He's fine. Hits a lot of home runs, not going to get on base a ton. But there aren't a lot of guys who can even remotely come close to Aaron Judge. The Orioles have guys like Adley Rutschman. They have guys, hopefully, in the...
Let's be clear here that the Orioles don't have anybody that comes close to Aaron Judge.
No, they don't.
But they have a lot more versatility in their lineup than the Yankees do.
And I still think there's more talent in the Orioles lineup than the Yankees.
Oh, I do. I do too.
Yeah. I mean, Aaron Hicks is still playing
terrible
all the time.
He's terrible. He's awful. They gave him a lot of money to
70 million over 7 years.
To be awful.
70 million.
To be awful. Zach, really good segment. So good, it makes me want to sing. Oh, say, have you seen all of Maryland's minor league baseball parks? PressBox is giving you the chance to check out all of them this summer. Head over to PressBoxOnline.com/contest now and sign up to win 4 tickets to each of the local minor league baseball teams, 1 Easy Pass Maryland on-the-go transponder preloaded with $25, and a $50 gas card from Royal Farms to help you get around. You must be 18 or older to enter, and the sweepstakes end June 14th. So get over to PressBoxOnline.com/contest right now to sign up.
So, by the way, I looked up Aaron Hicks, his numbers. He's batting 146. His on-base percentage is 212, and his OPS is 357.
Well, Harrison Bader's back now, so he's probably not.
Yeah, he's not playing. I mean, he's only played in 20 games so far, so he's just not playing.
What are Harrison Bader's numbers?
I can't imagine they're too good. Harrison Bader is always a guy that I viewed.
think he hit like a 3-run homer last night, though.
Did he? Okay. Well, I've always viewed Harrison Bader personally as a defense-first guy.
Yeah, me too, but he came to the Yankees last year and was like just a friggin'...
That's true. Harrison Bader so far has only played in 2 games, and he's batting 143. But this was not updated because this is Baseball Reference. So I'll get his updated numbers because Baseball Reference updates at 12 p.m. every day.
I didn't realize that. I thought it was just... I don't know when I thought they did it. But let's see. Harrison Bader is hitting 182.
Okay. Yeah, over 3 games, though. I think
it's only 3 games?
I think
So
it's like 12 at-bats, probably.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then he's got like 2 hits.
Another guy who constantly is injured. Harrison Bader is always on the injured list.
Was a phenom his rookie year, and then he's never matched that talent since then. But now it's time for the payoff pitch around the league. Anthony Santander hit 2 homers, including his first career grand slam. Dean Kremer outdueled Max Fried in 6 innings of 1-run ball in the Orioles' 9-4 victory over the Braves. The Orioles improved to just 2-9 all-time when Tony Taters has a multi-homer game. Ian Happ homer, driving in 2, and Justin Steele improved to 5-0 while lowering his ERA to 1.45 with 7 innings of 1-run ball as the Cubs took down the Marlins 4-1. Chris Bassett threw 7 shutout innings, and George Springer homered to help the Blue Jays send the Pirates to their 5th straight loss, 4-0. Luis Robert hit a 2-run homer, and Elvis Andrus hit a 3-run shot to provide all the scoring for the White Sox in their 5-4 victory over the Reds. Yandy Diaz and Randy Arozarena each hit their 9th home runs, and Wander Franco doubled twice in the Rays' 5-4 victory over the last-place Yankees. A lot of 5-4 games last night, by the way. Chris Sale struck out 10 Phillies in 6 innings to lead the red-hot Red Sox to their 7th straight win, 5-3. Bailey Ober spun 7 shutout innings while Max Kepler provided all the scoring with a 6th inning 2-run homer to lead the Twins over the Guardians 2-0, and Zach cried himself to sleep. A solar homer from Brendan Nimmo was all Kodai Senga needed to tap the Rockies as he picked up the 1-0 victory for the Mets with 6 shutout innings. More fireworks in Kansas City as the 14-win combined A's and Royals combined for 20 runs, 27 hits, and 13 walks, with the A's coming out on top 12-8. Brent Rooker doubled and hit his 10th homer in the victory before being ejected in the 9th for arguing balls and strikes. Paul Goldschmidt, who had 3 hits, doubled the lead off the bottom of the 9th with his team trailing by 1 and stayed there as Wilson Contreras, Nolan Arenado, and Dylan Carlson struck out in succession to fall to the Tigers 5-4 and drop to an NL worst 10-23. Javi Baez had 3 hits, including his 3rd home run in the victory. Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon had 2 hits apiece, and Chad Wallach contributed a 2-run double, but the game-winning run scored on a wild pitch in the bottom of the 10th to push the Angels past the Rangers, you guessed it, 5-4. Cody Carroll homered, and Merrill Kelly dominated with 10 Ks and 7 innings of 1-run ball to lead the Diamondbacks over the Nationals 3-1. Fernando Tatis Jr. took Clayton Kershaw deep twice, improving to 7 for 20 with 4 home runs against future Hall of Famer. And Manny Machado picked up his 7th multi-hit game of the year as the Padres downed the Dodgers 5-2. Yordan Alvarez hit a 3-run homer, and Kyle Tucker added a 2-run shot to lead the Astros over the Mariners 6-4. And in Astros news, they lost starter Luis Garcia to Tommy John surgery this week. And finally, J.D. Davis homered, and Jock Peterson drove in 2 to push the San Francisco Giants past the reeling Milwaukee Brewers 6-4.
Yeah, Milwaukee, another one of those teams that could have made the top 5, but they didn't because I don't see them.
Lost 5 in a row.
I don't see them ending up that great at the end of the year. They're just
give us Corbin Burns. Just give them to us.
They're in a somewhat easy division too. There's just not a lot of.
We'll give you Adam Frazier and a bag of baseballs.
Adam Frazier. Anyway, today on the first
he's hitting 375
game
over his last 7 games.
I'm not. I like Adam Frazier. I'm not going against him, but he's not Corbin Burns level talent. Anyway, Spencer Turnbull take on Adam Wainwright, the veteran. That's his first start of the year for Wainwright. Tigers and Cardinals 2:15 at Busch Stadium. Marlins and Cubs, Brian Hoeing versus Drew Smiley, the veteran lefty, 2:20 at Wrigley Field. Rockies take on the Mets, Austin Gomber versus Tyler McGill, 4:10 at Citi Field in Queens. The Yankees and the Rays will go at Tropicana Field 4:10. Domingo Germán against Drew Rasmussen. Twins and guard Sonny Gray versus Logan Allen, who makes his 3rd Major League start, 6:10 at Progressive Field. Blue Jays take on the Pirates, Jose Barrios against Johan Oviedo, 6:35 at PNC Park. Mike Clevenger takes on the lefty Nick Lodolo, 6:40 as the White Sox take on the Reds in Cincinnati. The Athletics, they're 7-26, will take on the Royals, 8-25. Not an exciting matchup there, but that'll happen at 7:10 at Kauffman Stadium. Ken Waldachek and Brady Singer on the mound today. Corey Kluber takes on Bailey Falter, Red Sox and Phillies, 7:15 in Philadelphia. Your Baltimore Orioles will take on Spencer Strider and the Atlanta Braves, 7:15 at Truist Park. Kyle Bradish makes another start for the Orioles and looks to get it under wraps. Brewers and Giants, Colin Ray against Alex Cobb, another former Oriole, 7:15 at Oracle Park. Nationals and D-backs, Mackenzie Gore takes on Tommy Henry, 8:10 at Chase Field. Final 3 games of the night, Dodgers and Padres, 8:40 at Petco Park. Dustin May and Blake Snell, really good pitching matchup there. Rangers and Angels, 9:07 in Angels Stadium. Nathan Eovaldi and Reed Detmers. And then the final game of the night, JP France takes on Marco Gonzalez for the Astros and the Mariners, 9:40 in Seattle. By the way, no to be determines today. That might be the first of the year.
Well, there you go. And
everyone's been named.
And, there you have it. All right. The payoff pitch around the league was brought to you today by PressBoxOnline.com/offers. If I can find this read anywhere in my life, there it is. Baseball season is here, and for the first time in history, you can bet from your phone in Maryland. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers for the best sportsbook offers and incentives so you can start winning today. Get up to $1,000 in a deposit bonus match plus a $50 free bet with DraftKings. Just go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers to claim your incentive. And now we move on to Orioles banter. I'm having a weird day.
Yeah.
That
was drawn out right there.
Yeah, it was. So, Orioles banter today. The Orioles have some minor leaguers that are tearing the cover off the ball. Jordan Westburg went 2 for 5 last night to leave his slash line at 340, 400, 590, 990 with 7 home runs and 28 RBIs. Essentially, he's on pace for a 30-homer, 115 RBI season.
Not bad.
Colton Cowser went over 3 but walked twice, lowering his slash line to 314, 455, 533, 988. And Joey Ortiz went 1 for 5, lowering his line to 366, 389, 573, 962. These guys probably don't belong.
No.
At AAA. Then you look at the Orioles roster. Austin Hayes has missed 3 straight games. Mm-hmm. Adam Frazier's hitting .239. With a 340 on base.
By the way, though, Austin Hayes came into pinch run last night.
Yeah,
so.
but I think it's a hand injury.
I think it is too.
I think it's a hand injury.
So he can't hit.
Exactly, he can't hit. Arias and Mateo are performing, and Gunner's Gunner. Santander and Mullins are hot. How much longer can you leave Kalzer, Westburg, and Ortiz in AAA? I think one of them's getting traded, and I think it's probably Joey Ortiz.
I would think it could be Westburg, actually.
He's so versatile, man. He can play so many different positions.
You know what? I don't think it's Colton Kalzer. I do not think they're trading Colton Kalzer.
I think Colton Kalzer is going to be their starting right fielder in like 2 weeks.
Okay.
And you're going to DH Santander a lot.
Yeah. Well, James McCann's been DHing a lot. And again, we talked about the bat being a major league bat, especially for a backup catcher, but he's not an everyday guy. And he was back in 2019 with the Chicago White Sox, but that's not who he is anymore, and that's not who he's ever going to be again. So, yes, they need another bat. Colton Kalzer, to me, is the best player out of these 3 by far. I think Colton Kalzer could be one of the better players in Major League Baseball in a few years. I really believe in Colton Kalzer. I wasn't ever happy with the draft pick.
You're the one who said they were going to take him.
Yeah, I did.
Before they took him.
I said 2 weeks before that I think they were going to take him because I thought it really fit Mike Elias's portfolio and what he's done in the past, and they ended up taking him, and he's just performed. He's performed everywhere, except for AAA last year, but it was only like 13 games. It wasn't much. I think Colton Kalzer is going to be a 5-tool star. Jordan Westburg and Joey Ortiz I have more reservations about, but I think all 3 are major league quality players who can literally start for the Orioles right now. And Joey Ortiz was against left-handed pitching. And honestly, even though I'm not the biggest Joey Ortiz fan in the world, I would have liked to see him over Ryan O'Hearn or Luis Torrens, personally.
Yeah, well, O'Hearn's been sent back down to make room for Luis Torrens.
Right. By the way, though, I think that either Jordan Westburg and Colton Kalzer are only going to be brought up to play every day. I don't think the same is true for Joey Ortiz.
I mean, when we talked to Bob Phelan on the show from the On the Verge podcast last week, he said that he thinks Ortiz has passed Westburg as a prospect. The bat speed is phenomenal, right? The bat speed's phenomenal. Westburg, this is the second straight year he's doing this, and he's got, I think he said, over 700 at bats now at AAA. Yeah, the time's now. For Westburg and for 100%. Kalzer. So how do you make room for them, though?
Well, I think you can throw Austin Hayes on the 10-day injured list. Yeah. I think you can. If he's not going to hit, and that's a dead weight on your bench. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's not really fast enough to be a pinch runner every day. And that's not really what you have a guy to bench to do unless you're the 1974 and 75 Oakland A's and you employ Olympic sprinter. I don't remember what that guy's name was, but he stole like 33 bases and never got one at bat. Yeah. But that's not today's baseball. I don't think that's a smart decision for any team. So Colton Kalzer would come up and play every day, and I think that's the right move they should make.
Yeah, you can legitimately play Kalzer, and even if you want to do it that way, and then when Hayes is healthy, you can do Hayes in left, Mullins in center, Kalzer in right, DH Santander. Make James McCann the true backup catcher instead of a guy who's going to DH and be the backup.
And then I don't know what the hell you do with Luis Torrens, but that's not.
Well, he's not staying on this roster very long. They did that for like this weekend. Yeah. Basically, I don't. That move is such a head scratcher to me. It's such a head scratcher.
I mean, I guess I get it because you need depth with Maverick Hanley being injured. I get that, and a hand injury as I believe what he has, and that's not something you want to play around with too much. That could last a lot longer than they expect, but still, it's a head scratcher for sure.
Yeah. So for me, Kalzer, and then when Kalzer's called up, that's when Kjerstad's going to AAA. He's been tearing the cover off the ball AA also this year. So I don't know, man. I think that they're all big league players. I think that they're all starting big league players.
Yeah.
I also think that one or if not two of them are getting traded at the deadline this year. And I think the most likely to be traded is Joey Ortiz because I think some team is going to look at what he's done since July of last year with the bat. Yeah. They're going to look at how good his glove is, and they're going to say, we can use that guy.
But even Westburg, though, I see Westburg as a guy that could bring a lot of value. A lot of value.
They all bring a lot of value, and you have to give something up to get something back.
Sure.
And if you want to get Eduardo Rodriguez from the Tigers or Corbin Burns from the Brewers.
Well, Corbin Burns would take Colton Kalzer. I'm pretty confident in that. You'd have to trade Colton Cowser if you want Corbin Burns.
I don't know. I
Really?
don't know because
I think so.
they only have one more year with him, and they know that
that's true.
and they know he's leaving. That relationship is severed.
But you look at guys that get traded of that quality, and usually it's for top 100 prospects and guys that are better than Joey Ortiz and Jordan Westburg are.
I think they'd take Joey Ortiz. I think they would take Joey
For Corbin Burns? I wholeheartedly disagree with
Willie Adames is the heart and soul of their team.
Oh,
and you're
boy.
not
Let's
gonna
not go
tell
on that
me-
discussion again.
You're not going to tell me that Joey Ortiz isn't better than Willie Adames.
that. I don't think he is.
I think he's a better defender.
You think Joey Ortiz can hit 35 home runs a year like Willie Adames does?
I think Joey Ortiz can hit for higher average and get on base at a higher clip and play better defense.
Maybe.
And I would much rather take a guy that's going to hit 275 with a 360 on base percentage and hit 15 home runs than the guy that's going to hit 224 with 30 home runs and play worse defense. I don't know, man. I would much rather have that guy.
I think you're overrating Ortiz a little bit. But
I think that Joey. I mean, the bat speed is phenomenal.
It is,
and all he's done in his entire life, except for when he was hurt, is hit. That's all he's done his entire life is tear the cover off the baseball. And for some reason, we think, because he played at New Mexico State in the high altitude, he can't actually hit. The dude has proven time and time again he can hit. He's in 366. Of the three guys we mentioned, he's got the highest batting average of all of them. And he's got the second highest OPS and the best glove. The guy can hit. The guy can hit, and the guy can play elite defense. I don't think it's going to take Colton Cowser to get Corbin Burns. I think that you could give them, that you could trade them Joey Ortiz, and they would take that. And it's probably going to take something else too. But I 100% think that could get it done.
Okay, well, I mean that's your opinion. I'm going to disagree with it, but that's your opinion, and that's
It's not. Nobody in their right mind is giving the Brewers a prospect like Colton Cowser for Corbin Burns when Corbin Burns hasn't been the Corbin Burns that he used to be this year.
Well, I'll throw you an example.
He's going to be a free agent after next year.
What about Aroldis Chapman getting traded for Gleyber Torres, who at the time was the #1 prospect in baseball? And Aroldis Chapman had, 3 months left on his contract? I think at the time he was traded.
That's different.
How?
Because they won a World Series.
Okay, but
they won a World Series.
But they didn't.
It was their first World Series in 108 years.
But they didn't know they were going to win the World Series.
There
was no guarantee of that.
because they were the best team in baseball, and they knew that he put them over the top to win a World Series, and they went and they won a World Series.
But you just ranked the Orioles as a top 3 team in baseball.
They're not winning the World Series this year.
Okay, I mean,
and they don't have a 108-year World Series drought.
If you here's
and
the thing.
Aroldis Chapman was throwing 105 miles an hour and was the best closer in baseball. If you ask the Cubs, was it worth trading Gleyber Torres, who's a middling player right now, for Aroldis Chapman, they would say 100 and 300,000%. That's not even a number. I made it up. Yes, it was worth it. It's apples and oranges.
But
it's apples and oranges.
My point is that guys who have that little left on the contract, if they're as good as Corbin Burns is a top 10 pitcher in baseball. Even with the way he's pitching right now, he's still a top 10 pitcher in baseball.
The way he ended last year, the way he's pitching this year,
the stuff is unreal. He throws a 93-mile-an-hour slider. I mean,
okay.
I don't know. I look at Corbin Burns as incredibly good.
So do I. That's why I want him.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to look at the mitigating factors, and that's the fact that he wasn't great down the stretch last year. He hasn't been great this year, and that relationship is severed to the point where he's not going to sign with them in free agency. When he becomes a free agent after 2024, he's leaving. If somebody offers you a top 100 prospect and then like a mid-level pitcher that's pitching at high A right now, you're going to take that for Corbin Burns. I don't think it's going to take Colton Cowser and Cade Povich to get Corbin Burns. I just don't, because no team's going to give them that.
I think Westburg is a relatively fair argument. I just don't think Ortiz is. But
I think Westburg's
we disagree.
I think Westburg's too versatile for the Orioles to want to trade him. I think that
he might be. He might be. But then again, Joey Ortiz is pretty versatile too. But
Joey Ortiz is a shortstop who can also play second, can also play third.
I think the arm plays better at second, but that's just my opinion.
But Jordan Westburg is a shortstop he's a second baseman at his best, who plays shortstop, who plays third base, who plays left field,
center,
who plays right field, and he can probably play first base.
He can play center field too, and he has done that.
Yeah,
there's no doubt. You're right. You're 100% right.
Thank you. I wish my wife would say. There's no doubt you're right.
There's no doubt you're right on Jordan Westburg. He's a really versatile guy. I don't necessarily think Joe Ortiz gets it done, but that we just disagree. That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. It's more than okay. It's perfectly fine.
And look, again, to not harp on this, but Colton Cowser is going to be a really good player. I'm very confident.
I think so too. He takes professional at bats, and what we need in Baltimore, what we've seen has made them really good this year, is guys that take professional at bats. We got to get Rich Dubroff on the line.
Let's do it.
Zach's gonna give. We got to take a break. We definitely have to take a break. Just want to remind you, hey, Birdland, did you know? Where did all these reads go, man? I'm
throwing them all over the place over there.
I'm a mess over here. I guess they're not a sponsor for us anymore. Did I already do this? Did I already do the latest edition of Press Box?
You did not.
Okay. Did you know that the latest edition of Press Box is available now? On the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the pipeline of talent still to come for the Orioles, diving in on last year's #1 pick, Jackson Holliday, and other top prospects like Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, and more. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles Orioles pitcher Kyle Gibson, and Bo Smolka breaks down what progress would mean for the team's 2022 draft picks in their second pro season for the Ravens. Pressbox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com. When we come back from BaltimoreBaseball.com, Rich Dubroff joins the program. That's next on the Bat Around.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? A.J. Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Costas Inn has been serving up delicious steamed crabs for over 50 years. Lately, the crabs you want to eat when the weather warms up have gotten harder and harder to get. So get your crab eating game plan in place. Make sure to stick this number on your fridge, 410-477-1975. Call ahead and reserve the size crabs you want. You may be able to walk in, but you may also be disappointed at the size or maybe even get shut out altogether. So call ahead, have a plan, and then arrive on your crab eating vacation. Costas also has delicious crab soup and crab cakes. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. For more than 50 years, they've been satisfying crab lovers in and around Baltimore.
The All-America Senior Game powered by New Balance will be back at Johns Hopkins Homewood Field on July 29th. The most decorated girls and boys lacrosse players in the country have been invited to play in what is the premier lacrosse event of the year. Every college coach wants their players in this game, and if you dream of being in this game, you start by trying out for one of your regional underclass teams this summer. The best against the best. Get your tickets now at allamericalacrosse.com.
Are you a diehard O's fan looking for the perfect way to show your team spirit? Look no further than Birdland Sports. Birdland Sports is a small business run by fans for fans. They offer a wide variety of unofficial O's merchandise, from the Birds Are Coming tees to player cartoon shirts and more. And the best part? Their prices are more affordable than the big guys. So head to birdlandsports.com and grab your gear today. Show your support for the Birds with Birdland Sports.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
I'm Griffin Bass, and I have the extraordinary, mind-blowing, and life-affirming pleasure of being the new producer for the absolute funniest, smartest, and most handsome sports host in all of Baltimore. Wait a second, Glenn, I'm working for you, not Jeremy Kahn. If you're not listening to Glenn Clark Radio, here's what you're missing.
He's Coach Kevin Willard.
Glenn, thanks for having me.
Baltimore Ravens wide receiver, Rashad Bateman.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
He is outfielder Cedric Mullins.
Thank you guys for having me.
Mr. Marcus Williams, who's now with us.
Man, appreciate it. Happy to be on.
Ravens kicker Justin Tucker.
Thanks for having me.
Adley Rutschman.
Absolutely, thanks for having me on.
John Angelos.
Thanks a lot. Good to be with you.
Ryan Mountcastle.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Marlon Humphrey.
Thank you.
Talia Tungavailoa.
Thank you guys for having me.
He is J.K. Dobbins.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
The great Ray Lewis.
Always good to be on.
He is Mr. Cal Ripken Jr.
Good chatting with you.
Watch Glenn Clark Radio at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and listen live at PressBoxOnline.com/radio or anytime on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or anywhere you get your podcasts.
O's fans, have you seen all of Maryland's minor league ballparks? PressBox is giving you the chance to check out all of them this summer. Head over to PressBoxOnline.com/contest now and sign up to win 4 tickets to each of the local minor league baseball teams, 1 Easy Pass Maryland on-the-go transponder preloaded with $25, and a $50 gas card from Royal Farms to help you get around. You must be 18 or older to enter, and the sweepstakes end June 14th. So get over to PressBoxOnline.com/contest right now to sign up. Joining us now on the Bat-Around from BaltimoreBaseball.com, he is Rich Dubroff. Rich, good morning. It's Paul. It's Zach. How are you today?
Great. Thanks for having me on, guys.
We are always happy to have you on. Always enjoy to talk to some baseball with you, Rich. Orioles began arguably their toughest 25-game stretch of the season last night with a 9-4 victory over the Atlanta Braves. Dean Kremer, 1 run in 6 innings pitched. Santander, 2 home runs, including his first career grand slam. Cedric Mullins, a home run and 2 RBIs. Just a monster with runners in scoring position. At what point, Rich, do we stop saying that the Orioles' schedule was soft and that's why they were so good and start looking at them as a legitimate contender this season?
Well, I think you can do that already. They don't make up their schedule. This isn't, college basketball where you can schedule, some soft non-conference games against schmoes at the beginning of the season. You play who, you play who everybody else plays.
Mm-hmm.
They won 17 they won 18 out of 23 games, and that's pretty good. That's pretty good no matter who you're playing against. But now you look at their record now, and they are 12 games over 500. They're 22-10. Right now they are 20%. The season's 20% over now. They're not going to win 110 games.
No, absolutely not.
But that's what that right now. That's what the record extrapolates to, and they can't be this good. I mean, the Rays, I think their record right now extrapolates to 132 wins.
Mm-hmm. It's
131 or 132 wins, which is also not going to happen. But you look and you think, well, so far the team looks pretty darn good. If they simply played 500 ball from here to the end of the season, which could be possible, they would win 87 games, which last year would have gotten them into the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I think that you can say that they're. I felt that they were a legitimate contender going into the season. And of course, all kinds of crazy stuff happens.
True.
And we have no ideas, but there's some good trends and some not so good trends. But overall, they're playing really, really well. And I guess who is it? Bill Parcells, who used to say you are what your record says you are.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, I guess they're the second. If that's true, they're the second best team in baseball.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at it as. And Zach and I did a little top 5 power rankings segment today, and I put the Orioles at number 2 because they beat the team that was previously the second best record in baseball last night, and that's what you have to go off of. They're 22-10. They've won 18 of 23, 16 of 20. Now, I'd like to know, Rich, which is the more outstanding feat? The Orioles winning 11 straight series openers to start the year, first time it's happened since 1973 when the San Francisco Giants did it, or Grayson Rodriguez failing to retire the leadoff hitter in each of his 6 first career starts?
I mean, I think that the Rodriguez one is actually more important because I think winning the first game of a series, I think that's sort of a fluky thing because
right.
You're counting. Well, they lost a couple. They lost a couple of those series to start the season. So I wouldn't. I don't put a lot of stock in that. I mean, it's a fun statistic to write and to talk about. But I think that Rodriguez is more important because all of a sudden, to begin the game, you're putting you're putting yourself under pressure. You're putting your team under pressure, and I think that's more noteworthy and more important, or to stop quoting. I'm going to quote a football coach for the second and final time in this conversation, and that's Ron Rivera, and he likes to say, you have to, separate what's interesting from what's important.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in this case, the winning 11 straight series openers is interesting, and Rodriguez not retiring the leadoff batter in any start is important.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's been, and to be fair, in his start before this past one, when he went 5 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, and 9.
Right.
I mean, 1 walk, no runs, and 9 strikeouts. He let the first guy get on base, and then they got him out on an incredible play by Jorge Mateo. Got the leadoff hitter out on a double play in his last start, which has helped the team out in each of the last 2 starts, although he wasn't very good on Thursday. But I think you're absolutely right. You have to separate the interesting from the important. It's important that he's putting his team in an early hole, and the Orioles have shown a propensity for coming back. But at some point, that's going to turn around. You would have to at least come back to the mean. And he needs to start getting guys out in the first inning for sure. And, Rich, honestly, the starting rotation needs to start getting guys out. It's been up and down. In my opinion, they've been mediocre this year. They have one excellent week. A lot of mediocrity, and this past week was really bad. We were just talking about Grayson. He's had 4 good to decent starts, 2 awful. Gibson consecutive duds after his 11 strikeout outing. Wells allowed 3 home runs in his last start, though they were the only 3 hits he allowed. Bradish got smashed by Boston and then looked great until the 5th inning against Detroit. And Dean Kremer's been uneven, in my opinion, more bad than good, but he was good last night. Can this rotation settle in, and do you think they'll pull the trigger on the top of the rotation arm at the deadline if they have to?
Yes, they would. I think they would pull the trigger on the top of a rotation guy if they have to. But they also have other options in between now and then. One of them's DL Hall, who pitched really well, on Thursday. Had his best start of the year for Norfolk, 3 hits in 5 scoreless innings. Cole Irvin pitched very well last night. It was his only loss, but he was a hard luck loser.
Right.
2 runs and 4 hits in 7 innings. And uncharacteristically, the Tides didn't hit last night. So you have those 2 guys. You have Drew Rom, who has pitched really well at times for Norfolk. And then of course there's also Spencer Watkins, who's still hurt now with his finger. But I think that you have some options down below. And then if things don't improve, and then there's another one who's supposed to come back in July, and that's John Means. So John Means, once you get to the trading deadline, John Means hopefully will have worked maybe 3 or 4 starts, and you can see what you have. You can see what you have there. But I think that I think that that's something that depending where they are in the standings, you can do that. They also, depending on what happens with the bullpen, may also, or trade for another bullpen arm too, because you mentioned the short starts, and that's putting a lot of pressure on the bullpen, and you can't as Brian Baker and Yenier Cano and Bautista, are they gonna all pitch this well? And then you have I know Gibbons is getting close to being ready, but Dylan Tate has not pitched well so far this year in his rehab starts. So I mean there's some things to be concerned about when it comes to the rotation, and then of course it impacts the bullpen.
Yeah, and we've been wondering, Rich, who's going to come up, who's going to go down when Givens and Tate come back. Right?
Please. Oh, come on now. Let's stop this. Let's stop acting like fans and realizing that you don't know when they're going to come up. And they don't know when they're going to come up, and you don't know what's going to happen in between now and then. So fans are always saying this stuff, and And people ask me this all the time, and people ought to stop trying to forecast stuff that could be a few weeks ahead.
Sure.
Because you don't know what's going to happen in between now and then. You didn't, okay. Did you guys know that the Orioles were going to get a third catcher this week?
Nope.
And then that impacts what happens. What happens with O'Hearn? Did you think did you think a week ago? Oh yeah, they're going to send Ryan O'Hearn down.
I thought it was going to be Stowers.
So don't. Of course you can look at who's not pitching well right now for the Orioles, and look at Cionel Perez, and I know Mike Baumann all of a sudden has had a couple of rough appearances, and Aiken, at times hasn't pitched well, but I'm not so sure that Dylan Tate's going to come up, because he's got to pitch better, and also both he and Givens have 30 days down at Bowie. So that's a long time. If they don't like what they see, they can keep throwing him out there. Givens, I think right now is showing that he's not long from coming up. I think Givens is now well ahead of Tate.
Yeah.
And Tate could stay down there a while, and also, unlike Givens, Tate has options. They can simply option him if they don't like what they see. They can simply option him to Norfolk. And he can go there. So that's not an automatic. And again, who knows if somebody gets hurt or somebody on the staff currently gets hurt, or if there are other if other people start underperforming. So it's really a disservice to just say, oh yeah, what do you think now is going to happen in 2 weeks?
Yeah, no, look, I understand the ire. I'm sure you get asked this question all the time. What I will say is that the fans are why we have a show. So I want to ask questions that the fans want to know the answers to. My question,
but you're going to get an answer that may be different than you expected.
Well, I understand that. I also understand that Dylan Tate didn't have a spring training, so this is kind of like his spring training right now, and he's probably staying down there longer than Michael Givens is. I also understand that Mike Baumann has given up 3 home runs and 7 runs in his last 3 outings, and that Cionel Perez, though he's out of options, that leash has to be getting shorter at some point because he has been awful this season. So I guess that leads me to my next question is, how long do they continue to trust Cionel Perez? And I get it. The Orioles don't play him any blowouts, so there aren't many situations they can find to get him some mop-up duty or some work in that's not a close game. How much longer can Brandon Hyde continue to go to Cionel Perez before it's like, look, you just aren't doing the job?
Not much longer. Because they have shown with what they are doing this year that every game's important. Every win counts. How they lost, if they had started this last season, close to this well, then they would have been in the postseason. Because they know last season was basically made by that 10-game winning streak.
Yeah.
Without that 10-game winning streak, they would have shown some improvement, but they wouldn't have been, a winning team. They wouldn't have been a winning team. They wouldn't have been in the playoff conversation. And they know that those 10-game winning streaks are few and far between. So they're maximizing the opportunities to win early in the season, because they know how important these games are, and they started the season so poorly last year. So they are showing that they're not going to just say, oh yeah, Cionel, you had a 1.4 ERA. They put him out there time after time, and last season may have been an outlier. It happens with it happens oftentimes with relief pitchers. So no, I think his leash is pretty short, and if they put him on waivers, he'd I would be pretty confident he'd be claimed by somebody.
Yeah.
I think like they put Crable on waivers this week, and I think that I don't think he's going to clear. They have much better talent now. than they've had in the past. They're much deeper, and their patience is not going to be as great as it was, in 2021 and early 2022.
Yeah, and I think that they've shown that to a certain degree this year. Now, what I do find a little confounding, a little bit of a head-scratcher, and you mentioned it earlier, Rich, is they've added Luis Torrens as a third catcher. I get that Maverick Hanley could have been on the taxi squad, but he has a hand contusion. They don't want to mess around with that. I understand that, and he's on the IL. How long do you anticipate they're going to keep three catchers on their roster? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I also understand Adley hasn't had a full day off yet, and they like to DH Adley and catch McCann and vice versa. So that's why they made the move. But can they justify this for longer than a week?
Yeah, I don't know. I was in this case. I'm with the fans. I thought that this was a very strange move too. To basically have four bench players, and to have two of them as catchers. And I realize that McCann often is the DH. It seems a little strange, because if you get an injury, like they had Austin Hayes out for a few games this week. If you have one of those day-to-day injuries, that's really that's really making things difficult. Now, the good thing is they have a lot of guys who can play different positions. Now, Frazier, they've been using Frazier in the outfield. When Terrin Vavra was up, they were using him in the outfield. And I know Torrens, I think, plays a little bit of first base, but I wouldn't be surprised if not long from now they decided, oh, well, we're going to bring somebody else up and try and run Torrens through waivers and see if they can get him through waivers and keep him in the organization.
Yeah.
I think that's something, because they want to, they've shown they'll play. As I said, they want to win each game. It's like, oh, well, then they brought Joey Ortiz up last weekend. Because they were going to face three left-handers, and Vavra wasn't going to play, and they thought, well, gee, we can get Ortiz up here, and then they flipped out. They got Torrens, and they sent O'Hearn down, and Stowers also came up. So I think that there's going to be a lot of churning with these last couple of position players throughout the season, and they're gonna, they're going to utilize, guys with options, and they're gonna try and, go series by series and see what works. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that with the bullpen too.
With regards to that roster churning that you just alluded to there, Rich, you have three guys at the minor league level right now who are absolutely tearing the cover off the ball, and they play good defense. That's Colton Cowser, Jordan Westburg, Joey Ortiz. You mentioned Austin Hayes was banged up. He's missed 3 straight games. We don't know if he's going to be in the lineup or not tonight. But at what point does it just become, all right, let's get Colton Cowser up here. Let's play him every day in right field, DH Santander, make either McKenna or Stowers our fourth outfielder. And then at one point, you have to bring one or both of those infielders in Westburg and Ortiz up and, kind of say, all right, Adam Frazier, thank you for what you've done, but these guys are younger and might be better.
Well, they're going to have to show they're going to have to show that they are, that they're better and they can do more stuff at the at the major league level. And as long as the team is playing, as long as the team's playing well. And right now, they're playing Frazier regularly.
Yeah.
And Frazier has done a good job. And I think that the master plan was, although Michael Elias certainly wasn't saying this, was when you get close, maybe the All-Star break or trade deadline, then maybe one of these guys replaces Frazier on the roster. I don't know, but bringing all those guys up is going to be hard.
Yeah.
But those are the kind of guys who they may want to package in a deal. When you said, oh, well, will they go and try and get a top of the rotation starter. Well, those are the kind of players who it's going to take to get, a top of the rotation pitcher.
Yep.
You're not going to just, you're not going to just be able to trade, your fifth-rated minor league shortstop in Darryl Hernandez for, a starting pitcher in Irvin. I think that they'll try, teams will, try and hold them up. If they know how badly they want these guys, that teams will demand these, these top prospects because they know how good, how good some of them are. And they have others. They have, Connor Norby and Kobe, and Kobe Mayo. So there's a lot of, there are a lot of interesting players that the team has in the farm system. And this is just, I've been watching the Orioles for a long time, and this is the most fascinating time, including the times they've won.
Yeah.
This is the most fascinating time I can remember because of, how quickly and how well they've stocked the minor leagues and the major leagues.
Oh, I think I haven't been watching the Orioles as long as you, but I've been watching the Orioles for a very long time myself, Rich, and this is the most talented team from the majors through the minors that I've ever seen. And it's definitely probably one of the more exciting times to be a person that's a fan of the Orioles, that covers the Orioles. It's certainly been a great start to the year and a great time to be around the Baltimore Orioles for sure. Now, before we let you go, Rich, we play a game here called Take the Rake on the Bat Around. The rules are simple.
I think I'll pass on. That and let the experts.
You don't want to play? Okay.
Not really.
Okay, Rich.
I don't play. I don't do fantasy baseball.
Sure. I don't do that either.
And yeah, and I don't I don't do fan duels or anything. So I'll let you guys know. You guys follow that stuff. I'm going to let the experts speak for me.
All right. Well, that is a first in Bat Around Take the Rake history of a guest opting out. All right, Rich, we will respect your wishes.
Hold on. Oh, man, you're putting pressure on. You're putting pressure on me. Adley Rutschman.
Adley Rutschman. Okay. He's going to take Adley Rutschman. That's a great choice. Rich takes Adley Rutschman. Thank you for playing with us against your will. We certainly appreciate it, Rich. Have a great day. Oh, what do you have coming up on BaltimoreBaseball.com? Can't have you on and not plug what you do.
No, we have we have daily coverage of the Orioles. We have an interesting interview in our minor league slot Monday morning with Norfolk manager Buck Britton. That'll be good, and we also have, as you know, columns by the great Peter Schmuck. So,
excellent.
Those are already always interesting. So make sure and check out BaltimoreBaseball.com.
All right, Rich, thank you so much. We love checking out BaltimoreBaseball.com. Love talking Orioles with you. We'll talk to you down the line, all right?
Okay, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Take care. That was Rich Dubroff, who you can find over at BaltimoreBaseball.com on the regular. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, regroup, and go over Take to Rake and the Bet Around all next on the Bat Around.
The All-America Senior Game powered by New Balance will be back at Johns Hopkins Homewood Field on July 29th. The most decorated girls and boys lacrosse players in the country have been invited to play in what is the premier lacrosse event of the year. Every college coach wants their players in this game, and if you dream of being in this game, you start by trying out for one of your regional underclass teams this summer. The best against the best. Get your tickets now at allamericalacrosse.com.
Baseball season is finally here, and what better way to celebrate than with some fresh gear from Birdland Sports. As a small business run by O's fans, Birdland Sports offers a great selection of unofficial merchandise, including unique designs like Birds Are Coming tees, player cartoon shirts, and championship prediction designs. And the best part, their prices are more affordable than the big guys. Get high-quality gear without breaking the bank. So whether you're heading to the ballpark or watching from home, show your love for the birds with Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com today to browse their collection and gear up for the season. Let's go O's!
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the pipeline of talent still to come for the Orioles, diving in on last year's #1 pick Jackson Holliday and other top prospects like Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, and more. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles Orioles pitcher Kyle Gibson, and Bo Smolka breaks down what progress would mean for the team's 2022 draft picks in their second pro season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farms stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Hartford Community College in Bel Air, Maryland, along with the National Junior College Athletic Association's Region 20, will host the 2023 NJCAA Men's Lacrosse National Championship May 13th and 14th at Hartford Sports Complex, 401 Thomas Run Road in Bel Air. Semifinals are on Saturday, May 13th. The national championship is Sunday, May 14th. Catch the action for $10 each day. Tickets will be available in advance or at the gate on game day. Qualifying teams will be announced.
All right, welcome back to the Bat-Around. Rolling right along here. We are almost done for the day and for the week. It is time now, though, for Take to Rake. And right now, our guests are on a run. Steve Molesky took Austin Hayes and won. Then Dan Connolly took Cedric Mullins and won.
Yeah.
Bob Phelan took Ryan Mountcastle last week. Zach took Adley Rutschman. I took Jorge Mateo.
Yeah.
Mateo started the week hot. He has cooled off considerably. So, Zach, tell us the numbers for all three.
I got it.
I don't think I came close because Mateo had a really bad second half of the week.
It's going to be between Rutschman and Mountcastle. We'll figure this out. But start with Mateo. He slashed 185, 241, 407. He had 2 home runs. He stole 1 base. He struck out 7 times and only walked twice. That was Mateo. Adley Rutschman batted 308, 438, 423. 0 home runs, 1 RBI, 6 walks, 4 strikeouts, no stolen bases on 8 hits. 8 for 25. 8 for 26. And then Ryan Mountcastle was 333, 353, 697, 2 home runs, 8 strikeouts, 1 walk, 0 stolen bases, 11 for 33. So Mountcastle had more at-bats than Rutschman, considerably, 33 to 26. Rutschman had a 438 OBP compared to 353, but Mountcastle had a 333 batting average compared to 308. Mountcastle slugged 697. Rutschman slugged 423.
So let's look at this.
It really went with Mountcastle got a lot more power, but Adley Rutschman walked a lot more and got on base a lot more.
Mountcastle, of the 11 hits, 8 were for extra bases.
He
had a 2-homer game. He drove in more runs, and he slugged about 200 points higher.
Yeah, but Rutschman got on base a lot more. So that's kind of.
But it's take to rake. Now, if they both equally raked, and it comes down to the walks, but Mountcastle had the higher batting average, the higher slugging percentage.
Also struck out twice as much, though.
Struck out twice as much, but that doesn't matter because when he did make contact, he was a more productive player. Look, I
probably agree with you.
I think that with the batting average, the productivity,
OPS
the
is higher
percentage, that's what I'm saying. The OPS was like over 1,000, and Rutschman's was like 840, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I look at that and I say, it's got to be Ryan Mountcastle. They both had great weeks, but Ryan Mountcastle was a more productive player.
Yeah, hit for more power. I mean, if Rutschman had hit for more power, he might have won.
So if you're going to count the walks and the strikeouts higher than you count home runs, doubles, RBIs, slugging percentage, and OPS, I don't think you can do that. Right? So it's got to be Ryan Mountcastle. So Rich was right to pick first, and he took Adley Rutschman. That means, Zach, you pick second.
Okay.
You're on the clock.
I don't want to go Mateo. He's been a little bit cooling down. I'll go Cedric Mullins. I think Mullins is going to really heat up, and he usually wins for me. So I'll take Cedric.
All right. I'm going to take the hot hand. I'm taking the Anthony Santander.
I knew you were going to go that way.
I have to, especially when we get into the better round, which is coming up in just a matter of moments. So again, just to recap, Rich begrudgingly takes Adley Rutschman, Zach takes Cedric Mullins, and I take Tony Taters, Anthony Santander, Tony Taters with an S. And now it's time for the better round. We did not do the better round last week because we have been just falling flat on our faces. We started out the year 2-0, telling you to take Austin Hayes to homer and off of Chris Sale, and Alex Verdugo to homer off of Dean Kremer. They both homered, and we started 2-0. Since then, we are 1-10. We have 3 wins, and when I say we, I mean me. I have I have 3 wins and 10 losses under my belt on the season. I'm sorry, 3 wins and 7 losses in 10 picks. 3 and 7 in 10 picks. Took last week off. We're back with a vengeance this week. I did a little bit of research, and I saw that a fair number of Rays hitters hit very well against Domingo Germán. He's taking on Rasmussen for the Rays today. I took the over 7.5 runs at minus 118 in the Yankees-Rays game. The over 7.5 runs at minus 118. I think the Rays are going to beat up on Germán in his 4.46 ERA. I think Rasmussen is going to stop the Yankees' bats, especially because their lineup's really beat up right now. They're missing some of their key core guys. I think the Rays are going to run away with this game. I'm thinking they're going to win something like 8-2, something like that. So I'm taking the over 7.5 runs at minus 118 in Yankees and Rays. And in that same game, Randy Arozarena has a home run and 11 career at-bats against Domingo Germán. He's hitting over 320 this year with 9 home runs. I took him plus 420 to homer. Now, in the Orioles game, Anthony Santander has a propensity. Right now, 1, he's homered in back-to-back games. 2, he has 4 consecutive multi-hit games, which is why I'm taking him and take the rake. And 3, he has a propensity for hitting home runs off of really good starting pitchers. You remember the 2-homer game back in 2020 against Max Scherzer. He took Max Fried deep last night. I took Santander at plus 470 to homer tonight against the Braves. But I also took Spencer Strider at minus 245 at 8+ Ks. Orioles are striking out a little bit more than they were earlier in the year right now. You have some free swingers in that lineup. I'm taking Spencer Strider to try and kind of right the ship for the Braves a little bit tonight and strike out 8+ Orioles at minus 245. All right, so that's the better round today here on the Batter Round. And now to close things out, final thoughts, and we're going to weigh in 10 days later on the Orioles, on the Ravens signing Lamar Jackson, 5 years, $260 million, or 260.
It was 60.
Yeah, $260 million. What was the signing? The guaranteed 187?
The guaranteed's 184, I believe.
185 million. They have
like
their franchise quarterback for the next 5 years.
Yep.
He said all the right things at his press conference.
Yep. Looked happy. Looked genuinely happy. He said he never wanted to leave. That the trade request was just to kind of get the ball rolling. I don't know if I believe that. I don't believe that.
I mean, he has to say that now because he's here.
Right.
He signed basically the same deal he was offered back in September, but the Ravens got a lot better on the offensive side of the ball before he signed.
Oh my!
And then after he signed. So let's first talk about now you have OBJ with Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about Zay Flowers in a second.
Sure.
Thoughts on the Lamar Jackson signing?
Well, it's huge. Obviously, I think this is a great thing for the Ravens for this to be over. This is a huge PR boost for them, finally not going back and forth with Lamar and looking bad, as I think both sides did. I think both sides looked horrible through this process. And this is the first time I've seen Lamar Jackson genuinely happy in about 2 years. I don't think he's looked this happy and this excited to be back. It's a really, really great thing for both sides. And hopefully Lamar Jackson is worth 185 guaranteed. I think he is. I mean, Lamar Jackson is a top talent. No one's really questioned that. 185 guaranteed is a huge amount of money. Absolutely insane. He's the number one paid player in football now. He's going to have to prove that. And he actually has the talent to do it. There's no excuse this year for Lamar Jackson like there has been in the past. There is no receiver that isn't talented on this team right now. Every guy has talent. Yeah. And that's never been the case before for Lamar Jackson. He's got Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews on the tight end side.
4 first-round wide receivers in their receiver room right now.
Yeah. And then Devin Duvernay.
Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and Nelson Aguilar. That's your top 4.
Yep.
Not in no particular order. That's your top 4. And then, by the way, Devin Duvernay, who's one of the best return men in football, and had 3 touchdowns the first 2 or 3 weeks to receiving alone last year, and then he got hurt. Their receiving room looks a lot better.
Oh, it's not even close. I want to say, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is the best receiving room the Ravens have ever had. I don't think there's been a better one.
Yeah, all around, I think you're right. But when they had Derek Alexander and Michael Jackson back in 1996.
A really long time ago, but
they were really good back then. As far as Lamar Jackson, how do you give somebody that kind of money? The argument would be, how do you give somebody that kind of money, that much of a guarantee, when they've spent the end of the year in each of the last 2 years injured?
And that's a huge question mark.
But here's what happened. 2 years ago, Lamar Jackson got hurt in the pocket running away from the line because nobody could get open.
Yep.
Last year, Lamar Jackson got hurt when he got sacked from behind and his knee buried straight into the ground. Running away because it wasn't like the guy just broke through the line and was there immediately. Nobody could get open.
Here's the thing. Is Odell Beckham going to burn past you for a 75-yard touchdown on a vertical these days? Probably not. But is he one of the best route runners in football? Undoubtedly. And that's what they need. They've never had a guy like that.
Him, Flowers, Bateman.
Yeah, Zay Flowers
all great route runners.
I was going to say Zay Flowers, I think, was the best route runner in this draft, is what I'm hearing from a lot of the people who are well connected, and that's what they need. And he has the talent and the speed to burn past guys too. You reminded me of this. He looks a lot like Hollywood in a lot of ways.
But he's much more muscular.
And the fact that he actually tries to make 50-50 catches instead of bowing down like Hollywood.
He doesn't get the alligator arms.
Right.
So here's the deal. And Nelson Aguilar is the guy who's going to burn past you. He's a guy who now he might not catch it. But he's going to burn past you.
And Devin Duvernay can do that as well.
And Duvernay can do that, and Flowers can do that. Bateman can do that. We saw Bateman take a slant over the middle against Miami and take it 75 yards for a touchdown. When Bateman was healthy last year, Bateman, Andrews, and Duvernay alone made Lamar Jackson look like the front runner for MVP through the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season.
Exactly.
Having a wide receiver room like that, and by the way, you have 3 tight ends in Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and Charlie Kohler that can catch the freaking football. I almost dropped the F-bomb. On paper, they look really good. And by the way, they have a really strong offensive line. They need to figure out left guard.
Yeah.
But they have a really strong offensive line, and they have 2 really good running backs.
They do.
And J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards.
And then Justice Hill never gets credit, but Justice Hill is really good.
He was really good last year.
If you remember the Steelers game, the COVID game, where there was basically no offensive starters for the Ravens, and Justice Hill was with RG3, he looked like the best player on the team by far. He was unbelievable in that game. He was the elusiveness of Justice Hill is really second to none on this team. I think he could be even more elusive than Lamar Jackson in a lot of cases. He's slippery.
Last year, he looked really good until he hurt his hamstring.
He did.
He looked really good. Yeah. The Ravens' offense might be the most complete offense and this includes 2019, might be the most complete offense we have ever seen.
Well, I think I would argue it's the most complete team they've ever had.
Yeah.
The biggest hole for me is cornerback still.
Rock Ya-Sin?
Yeah, Rock Ya-Sin's going to be the number 2. And that's okay. I mean, I think that's an upgrade from Marcus Peters. He was pretty bad down the stretch.
Yeah, but he was also just coming off the knee injury.
That's true.
They could bring him back. They could still bring him back at their number and have him be a third corner for them.
Yeah. So I read a little bit on Rock Ya-Sin, though, and the fact that he didn't get a lot of media coverage is because the Raiders' defense was, and the secondary specifically, was basically the worst in the NFL last year. But Rock Ya-Sin was the only shining bright spot from that Raiders defense. And he hits hard. And he strips the football. A lot like Marlon Humphrey. Very similar playing style. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Look, health is the number one thing. Now, look, they got rid of Steve Saunders, which is going to help them a lot because
It should.
all those guys. You saw Judon tweeting out about it. You
Yep.
saw Derek Wolf, who's kind of a piece of garbage.
Yeah,
Anyway.
yeah.
I mean, you're the one who's carrying a 700-pound bear on your shoulders.
Derek Wolf is not the most reputable source on this.
Right, but you've seen so many players coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, they got an F in strength and conditioning.
Who was the guy who went on the podcast the other day and talked about it? I can't remember.
Oh, I don't know.
It was someone really relevant that was, it might have been Steve Smith, but I can't remember exactly who it was, who was all over their strength and conditioning staff and said it was the worst he'd ever seen.
Yeah.
So
forcing guys to lift heavier than they probably normally would and forcing them to work out more than they would, and they're getting hurt.
Football's a contact sport. I get it, but it was ridiculous.
Yeah, that guy's gone. They have a new offensive coordinator. If they can stay healthy, I guess they don't have to be, and I guess I have the purple Kool-Aid and the blinders on, but for me, they have to be the best team in the AFC.
I think they are.
They have to be the best team in the AFC. Their defense is going to be nasty.
Mm-hmm.
Their offense is going to be nasty.
My one worry that comes out of this draft that I don't think they necessarily got really anything to replace is Calais Campbell's gone, and the run defense before Calais Campbell was horrible. And I'm really hoping that Matabike can step up and take that place. But I don't know.
Michael Pierce is going to be back.
Michael
this
Pierce
year.
will be back.
Brent
Urban as well.
Brent Urban. There's somebody that we're leaving out. What's his name? Harris?
You're thinking of Washington, right?
No,
Broderick Washington will be back.
Broderick Washington. But then there's also another guy who they took in the draft a couple of years ago, and he was hurt all last year. What is his freaking name? I feel like it begins with an H.
I'll look it up. I know who you're talking about.
I think that they have enough bodies. Plus, they have Roquan back there. They took what's his name? Simpson. Is that his name?
Yeah, Trenton Simpson. Yeah,
Trenton Simpson. And then Patrick Queen is still there. Adafe Owe and
Travis Jones, by the way, is the guy you were looking for.
Travis
That's who
Jones,
they took high in the draft last year.
Travis Jones. But then who's he? There's another guy. That's not who I was thinking of. But I forgot about Travis Jones. And then there's another guy.
A defensive tackle. Rashad Nichols, but I've never heard of Rashad Nichols. I don't think it's him.
Maybe they cut him.
They might have.
He was hurt last year.
By the way, AJ makes the argument in the comments that they aren't even the best team in the division. I mean,
they're better than the Bengals.
I think they're better than the Bengals. I think the defense is quite a bit better than the Bengals' defense is.
The defense.
You could make an argument the Bengals have the best offense in the division. I could get behind that.
Well, they have the best receivers.
They do.
They have the best receivers for now. The Ravens' running game and offensive line are far better.
He makes a point that they don't have enough depth, and I could agree with that, especially in the cornerback. I mean, if Marlon Humphrey gets hurt, they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
They will be in trouble, and they will have to make a quick move to replace Marlon Humphrey because Rock Ya-Sin and Brandon Stevens ain't going to get it done.
If Joe Burrow gets hurt, they're going to be in trouble. If Joe Mixon gets hurt, they're going to be in trouble. If Jamar Chase gets hurt.
I'm just playing devil's advocate, but
if any key player on any team gets hurt, your team's going to be in trouble.
Cornerback has historically been the most injured place for the Ravens. They get injured there every year.
That's why every year when everybody's like, "Oh, this is the deepest they've ever been a corner. You can't afford to lose." I'm like, "No, you can't."
That's why I personally like the Zay Flowers pick. It's growing on me, but I would have liked to see a corner taken the first round. I wanted out of Oregon. The guy went to the Patriots. Who the name's blanking me right now.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not familiar with college prospects. All I know is that Hollywood got taken. Everybody's like, "Oh, he's the best receiver in the draft." And there's like 7 guys who got taken in that draft after him who are far better than he is. Then it was Bateman, and it's like, "Oh, he's incredible. He's got great hands, runs great routes. He's big. He's strong. He's a physical wide receiver." Yeah. He's played 12 games in 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Then so now it's like after Bateman got hurt for the year last year, I said, "I am never, ever getting excited about a Ravens wide receiver taken in the first round ever again."
Here we are.
I hope. No, I'm not excited about Zay Flowers. I'm not. I have hopes.
I know you are.
I have hopes that he can be good, but until he actually does it, why should I believe what anybody says ever about a first-round Ravens wide receiver? They've had 5 first-round wide receivers in their history, and they've had 5 whiffs to this point.
I'm no NFL scout. Believe me, but I will say I even think that Bateman's tape from college looked a lot better than Zay Flowers. But Zay Flowers is a position of need. AJ makes the comment that they've never developed a first-round wide receiver, and you're absolutely right. I mean, they never have done that. So
I mean,
it's a questionable take.
Travis Taylor was the top 10 pick.
At
Mark Clayton.
22. Sorry, go ahead.
Mark Clayton was he was 5'9" and ran like a 4.7 40. And, what? Then They take.
Well, Mark Clayton ended up going to the Dolphins and being pretty decent, correct?
You're thinking of two different Mark Claytons.
Oh, that's a different Mark Clayton. Okay.
He was around before that Mark Clayton.
Got it.
So Travis Taylor, Mark Clayton, Brashad Perriman. He looked like he was 43 when they drafted him, and he was hurt, and he never did anything for the Ravens. Then Hollywood, and then Bateman. Why should I ever believe that a first-round wide receiver the Ravens take is good until I see that he's actually good? I have to see
I'm definitely thinking of a wrong Mark Clayton.
I have to.
Right.
I have to see it with my own two eyes.
Yeah.
That Zay Flowers is legit. You can't do. I don't care. I don't care what his college tape looks like. He's playing against other college players who aren't going to be in the NFL. He's not playing against NFL players in those college tapes. B, he's 5'10". C, he's never done it at the NFL level. And you told me these big things about everybody else that they took, and they were wrong.
My question, actually, and my dad brought this up when we were watching the draft together, that Boston College is a question, I think. Because, I'm not a huge college football guy, not a college
Ryan
football
went
scout.
to Boston College.
Yeah, and Matt Ryan ended up being a really, really good NFL quarterback. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Boston College isn't an Alabama or a Georgia or one of the huge producers of NFL talent. That's my only point there. And
Boston College.
It's not a Power 5 school. It's not one of the ones that's always producing these guys. So I guess that's my point there.
Yeah, we'll see. Ravens on paper look really good, but the game's not played on paper.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add today?
No.
All right.
I do not.
That's going to do it for us here on the Bat Around. Thanks to Stan the Fan Charles for his weekly segment. Thanks to Rich Dubroff for coming on the show again with us. Always great to have Rich on the program. Thank you to Zach for all the hard work he does in his brilliant power ranking segment today. Thank you to our listeners. Without you, we don't have a show. Thank you to our sponsors. Without you, we don't have a show. And thanks to me for being the host of this awesome show.
Thanks, Paul.
It's a thankless job. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in.